Yeah, sure. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Brilliant. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. If you can take your seats, we'll be starting very shortly. And if you can at all, fill any gaps that may be between you and the set of people next to you, because we do have a full house today, and I'm sure there'll be some late arrivals, and the last thing we need is people clambering through other bodies just to get to their seats. So if you can keep as many of the empty seats on the sides, then it means that they can just take up those seats without too much disruption. As I say, we'll be starting very, very shortly, so thank you very much indeed for your patience.
bring the Lord Lieutenant now?
No, so you and Lord Lieutenant waited in the wing.
Yeah.
Everybody else sat down.
Okay.
Everybody else sat down. Just you and the Lord Lieutenant to the other side.
Fantastic.
So if you're ready now, we need to start. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can kindly ask everyone to take your seats, because we are about to start our program. So anybody waiting in the wings, not sat down yet, could you do that now, please? Thank you very much indeed. So ladies and gentlemen, friends, honorable guests, could you kindly stand as we welcome His Majesty's official representative in Leicestershire, the Lord Lieutenant, Mr. Mike Kapoor. And Mr. Kapoor will be escorted by our TILAWA 1942 mascot, Luca Milan Emil Solanki. Welcome, Lord Lieutenant. So, a very good, please be seated. Very good afternoon, friends. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Kamlesh Purohit, presenter, broadcaster, and now Deputy Managing Editor of BBC Radio Leicester. Welcome to this historic commemoration of SS TILAWA on the 83rd anniversary of its tragic sinking. Today in Leicester, we officially acknowledge the forgotten tragedy and memorialize 280 precious lives that were lost back in 1942. We must start by acknowledging and thanking the Peepul Centre, our many volunteers, and our sponsors who have either provided funds or their personal time and services to make this program come to fruition. Without you, all this event would not have been possible. So can we just put our hands together for all our supporters, please? We thank our anonymous donors, the Bamra Parivar, Argentum Exploration, Magellan, Michael Brady at Seabank Digital, Ocean Liner Designs, Mr. Pravin Jeevan, Pujara Charitable Foundation, Rita and Atul Patel with Saroj Ben Patel Memorial, Sona Rupa, our media and radio partners, Punjab 2000 and Sabras Radio, and Hitin Ondia. We are honored today by the presence of some of the survivors of the SS TILAWA tragedy, as well as the descendants of some of the ship's passengers. We're equally honored with the presence of some very special guests. We've already met Lord Lieutenant, Mr. Mike Kapoor. Also with us this afternoon is Uganda's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Her Excellency, Mrs. Nimisha Madhwani. Welcome. Lord Mayor, Councillor Teresa Aldred, who's also with us. So Paul Marshall, who's joining us virtually, Mr. Jaffa Kapasi, Mr. Keith Vaz, Mrs. Rita Patel, and Kristen from Magellan, the SS TILAWA Foundation's representatives from South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, when we think of great maritime tragedies, the Titanic immediately comes to mind. A story etched into history, retold in books, films, and memorials across the world. Yet today, here in Leicester, we gather to remember another ship, another tragedy, one that has remained largely untold. 83 years ago, during the Second World War, the SS TILAWA was torpedoed by a submarine of the Imperial Japanese Navy in the Indian Ocean. In that tragic moment, 280 precious lives were lost. Fathers, mothers, children, friends, each with dreams and futures that ended in the cold waters of war. Unlike the Titanic, the TILAWA story faded into silence, its memory carried only by survivors and their families. Today, we break that silence through the voices of some of the survivors and their descendants, through historical archives and images, and remarkable footage of the ship's salvage operation. We bring the TILAWA back into the light. We honor not only those who perished, but also those who endured the nightmare of clinging to life in the ocean, waiting to be rescued, showing unimaginable courage in the face of despair. This commemoration is more than remembrance. It's a call to acknowledge forgotten history, to give dignity to those who were lost, and to ensure that their story, like the Titanic's, is never forgotten again. So let us begin this afternoon by holding in our hearts the 280 souls of the SS TILAWA, and by celebrating the resilience of those who survived so that their legacy may live on. It's fitting to commence today's program with introducing the founder of TILAWA 1942, Emil Solanki. Now, Emil was born and raised to Gujarati immigrants from Uganda, Mukesh and Tara Solanki, here in the audience today. Emil's paternal family are from the village of Kacholi in India, where there is a TILAWA connection. Emil lost his great-grandfather to the TILAWA sinking. In addition to Emil's voluntary work with TILAWA 1942, his profession is in the life insurance industry and also historical tourism in the Middle East. He's a proud husband to his wife Gabrielle and proud father to son Luca, both here in the audience today. So please welcome to the front Mr. Emil Solanki to present Bringing the Forgotten Tragedy to the World, Update 2025. Mr. Emil Solanki.
His Majesty's Lord Lieutenant, my Lord Mayor, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, TILAWA family members, ladies and gentlemen, both in person and streaming online, it is the honor of my life to stand here before you. 18 years later, we have come full circle. Our journey started here. What was a personal project has now become a service, not only to Leicester, but to Britain, to the Commonwealth, and the wider world. Today we make history on the 83rd anniversary of the ill-fated SS TILAWA, the Indian Titanic. We shall officially acknowledge it, and we shall memorialize the loss of 280 lives. It means so much to my father and I that you have taken your Sunday afternoons off to be with us. This is a sacred moment. It's an important moment. And even if this forgotten tragedy is not directly connected to you, family-wise, as Asians, this is your heritage. This is your story. And it is a story that we should ensure is prominently featured in the history books. So, let's get started. Enjoy this introductory video.
Somewhere in the Indian Ocean, more than 4 kilometres, 2.5 miles deep, lies the broken wreck of a once proud ship. She carried hundreds for new lives and opportunities between India and South Africa, a vital sea link between continents. This rusting hulk was once home to her crew, a floating town, but now she lies silent and rusting because of one fateful night. November 1942. The SS TILAWA is steaming a few days' sail out of India. 958 people are aboard. Families, business people, experienced crew, all bound for Durban, South Africa. Beneath their feet, tons and tons of silver, intended for the South African Mint. TILAWA, however, is not alone. The celebrity Japanese submarine, the I-29, has found her, and she has her clear in her sights. One torpedo is fired. It roars through the water and strikes home with devastating effect. The inrush of water sends TILAWA down, but her crew scramble to swing the lifeboats out and away, and the evacuation is in full effect. Soon, though, it seems like the ship isn't going to sink. Some boats even venture back to investigate and possibly board the ship again to try to save her, but I-29 won't let her quarry get away that easily. Commander Izu Juichi fires a second torpedo that slams into the side of the liner, and this time, she's finished. Within minutes, as the dynamos die out and the lights begin to glow a fiery red, the ship rolls onto her side and has disappeared beneath the surface. The next day brought a tragic realization. 280 passengers and crew have been lost with their ship. The cruiser H.M.S Birmingham and the converted liner Carthage arrive on scene to rescue the living, but TILAWA lies at the bottom of the ocean, one of dozens and dozens of ships sunk in 1942 during the darkest days of the Second World War. But the families of TILAWA's victims have never forgotten their loved ones, and today, 83 years after the ship was lost, we gather to commemorate the great vessel and those lost with her. Thanks to the efforts of SS TILAWA 1942, the memory of the fallen will never be extinguished.
So once again, good evening and welcome to this historic occasion.
It's just a memory which I can never forget forever whole life. Now today I remember my mother a lot. Because due to her, today I'm surviving.
It would be my great privilege and the privilege of the British Deputy High Commission in Mumbai if you would allow us to lay a wreath each year in our National Service of Remembrance for the victims of the TILAWA tragedy.
Is it a nightmare haunting me? The heart is stormy.
When this tragedy took place within the family, it was incredible what Vallabhappa and Kasiba did. They essentially adopted my grandfather, they took him to Africa, they gave him a new identity, and this is something that we will forever honor, we will forever acknowledge, and we will forever be grateful for.
My family, I lost my 3 brothers
Yes.
and mother. My father and myself, we survived, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Even for me, it's quite emotional to talk about it, although I wasn't there, and I only learned by what my grandfather spoke of as my brothers and myself and my cousins grew up.
The boat had been torpedoed. There were a few survivors, but my entire family had been wiped out.
This is something that we have not even read anywhere. Why is it not known? Why is it not in our history books?
There's a good reason why we call it the Indian Titanic. It was drama beyond our imagination.
I'm Habiba Bade.
Okay.
As you can see on the screen, my grandmother was Habiba Bade as well. So I think my dad must have named me after his mum just to get that little closure and feeling of having somebody close by to him.
All our lives, Dad used to mention that he was on a ship that got torpedoed when he was a baby. And we're like, okay. And as I grew older, I love history. So I was like, Dad, what was the name of that ship? And so he said, it's a TILAWA.
Well, we have officially commemorated the ill-fated SS TILAWA on African soil.
Now, in 2025, a groundbreaking survey by Magellan Limited has documented the ship in vivid detail, and at last we can see the state she's in. The silver was famously salvaged and became the focus of a lengthy ownership battle, but the wreck itself is the true historical treasure left behind. 83 years after TILAWA was lost, we can see her in full colour and detail once again and piece together the ship's crucial final moments. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 83rd anniversary commemoration for the loss of the SS TILAWA.
What an incredible start to this program. And can we just say, there was no artificial intelligence in creating that ship. This is an absolute dream. 18 years ago, we could only imagine what it would be like to recreate the SS TILAWA. So much love and care, tedious work, intelligence, human intelligence has gone into creating what you just saw. Second, the wreck itself. We're going to explain a bit more of the wreck later, but I just want to start by saying and acknowledge Sir Paul Marshall, Argentum Exploration, Magellan, and Michael Brady. You four and your teams, we owe you a debt of gratitude for making dreams come true, and you'll see why shortly. Let's move on. What you see before us is 18 years of hard work, 18 years of research, finding that connection between Britain, Earl James Mackay, Lady Elsie Mackay, the British Steam Navigation Company, passenger liners from pre-Second World War going into the Second World War, native Indian nationals going to and from Africa, trying to make a better life for themselves. Did you notice that I-29 Japanese submarine? That was real footage. Did you know that? Real footage. The Japanese did a great job in recording some of their pursuits. 1942, middle of the Indian Ocean, that is the footage you saw. They had a technique of how they would attack, disable the ship, and then on that second torpedo, the ship would go in seconds. So, did you also see in one of the pictures in the top, the third picture from the left, Subhash Chandra Bose, famous Indian freedom fighter, well regarded by over 1.4 billion people. Did you know that 5 months after TILAWA sunk, Hitler arranged for Subhash Chandra Bose to be brought down in a German U-boat into the South Indian Ocean. And the very same crew, the very same commander, the very same submarine I-29 rescued him and gave him safe passage to Asia. The very same crew that sunk his Indian people. History is interesting, isn't it? And as the years went on, our research would allow us to find a lot more visuals. A couple of years ago when we had the second commemorative event in Greenwich, the curators there said we have nothing. No artifacts, no visuals. We don't know what the ship looks like. So even a little picture would be considered something great. 18 years ago, you couldn't find anything on Google. Try now. Try SS TILAWA, TILAWA 1942, Indian Titanic. It's incredible. In 2012, Sunday, July 22nd in the afternoon, this would be the final time that I would see my grandfather here in Leicester, still fully with it. And he was always grateful for what his uncle, his adopted father, did for him. But what was his final wish with full conviction? Find my father bring his body, find the steamer. Find the steamer. Now, who's going to spend $100,000, £70,000 every day to get out into the middle of the Indian Ocean, 1,000 miles northeast of the Seychelles, over 2 kilometers deep, 4,500 meters deep? Who's going to go and do that to find a wreck, a war grave? A dream come true. Let's watch. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my Lord, what is this? What is this? Magellan have done it. Magellan have done it.
The TILAWA has sunk straight down, in excess of 4 kilometers deep. Now, that's a long way down. And she's gone onto her port side. So the ship is essentially lying over on one side here. So inevitably that means that there's going to be decay and collapse as everything sort of falls and slews off to one side. You might think of the Andrea Doria, you might be familiar with that wreck. Ken Marshall's paintings show her, collapsing down on one side, all the superstructure kind of falling off. We were shocked by a lot of the things that we actually saw down there on the TILAWA. She's in places in really good shape. Some things have been incredibly preserved. Straight away, you can make out the ship's name. This is the one thing that really kind of stunned some of their team who'd worked on a lot of wrecks before, especially me. It was really surprising to see the name still shiny and still, legible. On a lot of other ships, like the, steamers from the earlier part of the 20th century, like Titanic and so on, the nameplate was etched in. So the outline of the letters was etched, and then the name was painted. Sometimes you might get some applied metal. So the Lusitania and the Mauritania had their names applied with metal. And it seems like that's what's happened with TILAWA. You can still make out the name, even though the rest of the hull is covered in marine growth, rust and things like that. The name is still as clear as the day she last saw the surface. It was kind of just a bit of a touching moment to see that. We're coming up along the hull, and one of the things that you can see here is a door that's half swung open. We talked about this with some of Magellan's team on the video that's going up on their page, so I'll go into more detail in that. But essentially, these ships had to operate in hot climates, and they would half swing the doors open. They were designed that they could be half open to get as much fresh air in as possible. It was another clever design choice to try and get as much ventilation in, but they must have been shockingly hot ships. The Indian Ocean in summer is relentless, and with the sun blaring full bore, the ship with her black hull, it must have been unbearable below deck. So no wonder many passengers actually chose to sleep up on the upper works instead. Yeah, coming along the boat deck, you can see kind of furled there an escape ladder still attached to the superstructure with a bit next to it, the kind of cross-shaped piece of metal that would have been used for lowering the boats. And then in the background there, a big winch that would have been used to retrieve boats after they were launched. TILAWA sank fairly slowly. It enabled quite a few of the lifeboats to get away. But she was attacked again. So the Japanese submarine that had caught her fired off one torpedo and started the sinking. They fired off a second one mid-evacuation, and that's really what was the coup de grace for this ship. After that, she rolled and sank in very short order, and it caught a lot of people off guard. So there were dozens of people who were lost with the ship. This ship hasn't been seen like this since she was lost in the early 1940s. We're coming up now over the stern, and there's something over here that I definitely wanted to show you that is one of the star features of the TILAWA wreck. TILAWA was one of two sister ships, the other one being Talma. And Liam Sharp, who is our very talented 3D modeler, was able to review this wreck footage and learnt through doing so. And we'll get him on the channel and on Magellan's channel to explain this in greater detail, but there were changes made to Talma during and after the war that we had always assumed TILAWA never got because she was sunk before they could. Turns out, from reviewing this wreck footage and reviewing photos supplied to us from TILAWA 1942, the foundation, that there were changes made to TILAWA that she otherwise wouldn't have received. And Liam will go into more detail on this, but things like, plating in the superstructure and adding covered promenades and things like that. Little changes, but they would have significantly improved the quality of life for those on board. And this is really interesting stuff. This is history being revealed to us in the most kind of captivating way. It's amazing to be able to see it unfolding in front of us. You can see here the frame of a porthole that's kind of popped out of its place because of the way that the superstructure has been peeled back like that. That little part of plating there, it's been ripped open. The porthole would have obviously sat flush, but it's just clinging on with a couple of rivets that are just holding it in place there. That'll probably drop off one day soon. Now we're coming up around the stern here. You can see quite a few of these portholes have actually either popped out or been busted open. But that thing right there, dangling kind of off the edge, is a lifeboat davit. So she had old styled radial davits that would have been used to swing the boats out and lower them. And, clunky equipment, not easy to use, but the crew did equip themselves quite well when the ship was sinking and get the boats away. The majority of people were rescued and saved in the event and after the sinking, but it was a pretty frantic affair. A torpedoed ship can go down pretty quickly.
Michael, we know you're watching live from Melbourne. We love you. What a labor of love. And so, as you enjoy the exhibits outside, thanks to Sir Paul Marshall's team, Argentum Exploration, Magellan and Michael Brady's team, look at the goodies that we have. We can see the deck, we can study the deck, we can now see the area where our loved ones were. And as we go on here, even a plaque, thanks to Magellan, was installed on TILAWA for all time. A plaque was placed there. There are some artifacts there at the bottom too. Interesting little item there, the wheelbarrow. But again, we could only dream of seeing this war grave. It is incredible. So soak that in, friends. Take that in. Those are the waters. What was it like to actually conduct this operation? Are we not grateful for technology, for cell phones and computers and, just what a time to be living in? And that reasoning can also be applied to the sciences of the sea, the research and the amount of money, time, intelligence that it takes to study deep sea exploration. Have a listen.
It's very hard to, light issues aside, camera issues aside, it's very hard, I think, to be able to join two photographs together. That's the way I see it, Doug. Yeah. when you've got an edge like this here, or it's also jumbled up. It's not like the Titanic, was I'm going to say it was reasonably intact. Yeah. And there was plenty to go on to mesh stuff together. You could clearly see the rivets. You could clearly see, but of course, being over on its side, then you've got more sediment build-up, obscuring a lot of those features as well.
Yeah, and you can see it. You can see it here a bit. You've got the front plates quite clear, but the images, the stuff in the background,
a lot of shadows.
Clear enough is shadowed, and there is something there, but the photogrammetry can't, from this image, for example, can't fill in the bits in the back. So unless you could actually cover every square centimeter of all those broken and torn areas, you'll never get a full image.
It's just, I guess, some testament to the amount of technical advance that has enabled this kind of like work to happen, because 30 years ago you would have needed like a very talented artist to sit here for like months and interpret what he was looking at and paint it, or, something like that, and now it's incredible that you can document, as you did with Titanic, document it as it is forensically, really. That's what makes a VROV pilot compelling, is that it's not someone's interpretation of Titanic. It's like, it is Titanic. It's as good as you can get. Like, it's the closest thing you can get to actually getting an ROV yourself and sending it down.
Thank you so much, James and Doug, for your hard work out there in the sea to deliver to us this incredible view of the TILAWA. So what else have we been up to as a team? My father was in India to organize the first TILAWA cricket tournament in the village of Kocholi. That was an opportunity of education to help the people there appreciate their connection to the wider world and to maritime history. The well-known Dan Snow was very gracious in interviewing myself and getting the TILAWA out there to help us raise awareness. You will recall the silver that was salvaged. We think of precious metal representing precious lives. And so the silver at the Royal Mint here was minted into Britannia coins. You can see that His Majesty's image is on there. His Majesty's private secretary is written twice, as well as previous Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer now have written in acknowledgement of the forgotten tragedy, which we appreciated. And the South African Mint also produced a Kruger Ran, and how nice it was to see the TILAWA 1942 label there. Now, something that was lovely, I think, this year in May, thanks to the hard work of Real N and Amandeep Dillon, who's with us today, working hard behind the scenes, just incredible hard work that the team here have put forth, by the way, for this program. And we were sharing the story of TILAWA right by the Tower Hill Memorial in London, with an event that Aman was holding. And my father and I went down to see the plaque there at the memorial, TILAWA Glasgow. And you may be able to see a name, Duncan, E.B. Duncan. That's a name you should never forget. Why? Because when the captain left the ship, Captain Robertson, do you know what E.B. Duncan did? He was first radio officer. He did not do a runner. He stayed with the ship. And he was prepared to die with the ship. He kept sending out those distress calls, those last known location coordinates, until the very end. And if it was not for E.B. Duncan, those 678 people would not have been rescued, because H.M.S Birmingham, the war diaries tell us, the actual cataloguing of H.M.S Birmingham's operations tell us that they were scanning the waters for 2 days. They got those coordinates. They knew that there were others out there, but they got those 678. SS Carthage helped out thereafter. But think about this. It's one thing to survive the first torpedo attack. Well done. It's great to survive a second torpedo attack. Okay, you're doing good. Okay, now you're in the water with a life jacket or on a life raft, or you even made it into a lifeboat. But then did anybody come to get you? You're waiting there for 2 days. How did you pass away? Think about that. And I don't know how my great-grandfather passed away, but we are grateful for what E.B. Duncan did. And did you know that His Majesty King George VI then, through, of course, their various honorary arrangements, issued a posthumous King's Bravery Award to E.B. Duncan? sometimes when you're doing research, it's not as easy as Googling SS TILAWA and something pops up, as we mentioned earlier. Sometimes you have to be a little bit more strategic and fine-tuned. Here's an example. There was a well-known journalist in South Africa, Mr. Hugh Milner. This is the first connection we have to a white family, to the TILAWA, because, you know, we're all South Asians here. And Mr. Milner, in his obituary news article, there was a little sentence here that piqued my interest. In November 1942, a ship he was on was torpedoed in the Indian Ocean. So now I had to go on a hunt. And I found his 2 daughters alive in their 70s, I believe, in Colorado, USA. This was delivered to me last week. So these 2 daughters, Glenda is the one that I've been communicating with. So hello, Glenda. We know that you will be watching this program. After her father, Hugh Milner, who was a first deck officer on the SS TILAWA, by the way, she was given this painting. She didn't know much about the SS TILAWA, and then she started reading those words on the painting. And there was a little story of the SS TILAWA. And we will be able to share more of that story later on, not today, but at another occasion. But how wonderful to think that here is a first deck officer, and we have a connection to now the United States, which will give us even more ammunition, as it were, with our access to research, and perhaps we can have some of the administration on that side of the world assist us. So there we are, Glenda and her siblings finding out a story of their father through a painting. This year, the first museum talk at the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich took place. We are very grateful for the staff for their continuous support of allowing us to share the story. We continue to acknowledge the Maritime Mumbai Museum Society, the retired Vice Admiral I.C. Rao and his team for representing the TILAWA 1942 organization, all of you families at remembrance there. They lay the wreath for those 280 lost souls. And of course, we are also grateful to now actually MP in Scotland, Mr. Alan Gemmell, who was the Deputy High Commissioner at the time. His Majesty's favourite uncle, Lord Mountbatten, had a ship, H.M.S. Kelly. And H.M.S. Kelly and the SS TILAWA were both built in Hebburn Shipyard in Newcastle. What you see before you is a new development thanks to Barry Holmes and his team. And when they build a micro-museum, not only will HMS Kelly be acknowledged and celebrated, but also the SS TILAWA will have a dedicated space. How do you feel about that? Now, we don't know when that's going to happen because, you know, there's bureaucracy and you've got to get through a process. We also just had some amazing, exciting news for you. I've got to read this. The director of the Maritime History Society, Commodore Conna. We at MHS also believe that this could be a valuable addition not only to our maritime history, but also to the very evocative history of our diaspora. Prime Minister Modi is all behind this largest maritime museum in the world in Lothal, Ahmedabad, Gujarat. It's like going to Disney World. Have a look. Now, I don't have a bone to pick, but I'm talking to a lot of influential people here in Leicester. Would you like to do something more meaningful in connection with Tilawa? Now's your chance. Our dear colleague Joanna Jones, who is the head of arts and museums in Leicester City Council, sent me an email last week. This is what she said, and I've asked and asked and asked. Currently, there are no plans for this story to be displayed at the museum. We will keep your email on file, and thank you for your interest in the museum, la-di-da-di-da. Perhaps there is an opportunity there for us here. If you have the power and the influence to help us, please help. Making a museum-grade model of the ship is very, very difficult. There it is, the first in the world. What do you think about that? And what about now creating Tilawa, creating that animation from scratch? Well, we have exciting news today. We are going to give you a little voyage of that animation of the ship. At the very same time, I'm very pleased to announce that the first music album, an actual soundtrack dedicated to the families of the SS Tilawa, is being launched. If you go on to Apple, YouTube, you name it, it's there. Amazon, even in India, in Savan, it's called Musafir Traveler. We've got 5 songs on there. Have a listen.
Keep me alive. I'm मुसाफिर, मेरी आँखें तरसती हैं, क्यों तेरी कश्ती को किनारा ना मिला। एक पल जो थे सपने, सच सारे बन तिलावा की आप मनाओ इंसानियत के एहसास आज सबको गले से लगाओ सुबह के ताजगी में दरिया की लहरें ना आए दोस्त के साथ रहता हर दिन नए सपने Chala Africa, my chala Africa. Mizatai go by, Mizatai go by.
My favorite is Who Shall I Rescue? And we must give credit to Munawar Sakat, who actually wrote those lyrics, and his grandfather, Muhammad Ali Patel, was on the ship of the Tilawa. Munawar, thank you so much for your hard work with this music album. And again, Michael, thank you very much for helping us with that animation video. So, families, friends, we've come a long way. We're just starting. If any of you can help us make a documentary, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to have another commemorative event one day where we can celebrate that achievement? If you have the power, the influence, make a difference and help. That's it for now from me, but may our hard work continue to ensure that one day the SS TILAWA will no longer be a forgotten tragedy.
What an amazing update, Emil. And there's so much to celebrate, isn't there? As well as to commemorate. And so much has been achieved in such a short amount of time. And Emil, I know your dad Cash as well, but you in particular, Emil, have been a real force behind all this amazing work as well. And you've been a phenomenal motivation and support for so many of the family members as well. And I know you've worked so hard doing a lot of the research off your own back, in your own time, with your own money, just to keep these memories alive. So I think it really does deserve a massive round of applause and a thank you. Is incredible, honestly. This guy is incredible, and his energy and motivation is beyond words. You know, when you watch the footage of the wreck lying at the bottom of the ocean, this horrible deep blue sea where people were clinging onto life, it's hard to think that there were any survivors at all. But there were survivors, and the most amazing thing is that a couple of those survivors are in this very room with us today. That is incredible, and we will be hearing their stories as well as the stories of their loved ones as well. But before we turn to those stories of the families, I'd like to welcome to the front Mr. Mike Kapoor, our Lord Lieutenant, and the official representative of His Majesty the King for the county and city of Leicester. He was appointed to this post on the 14th of June, 2018, a leading businessman. Those of you who know what a phenomenal contribution Mike has made to so many aspects of life in Leicestershire. He takes a keen and active role in developing and promoting the city and county, a place that has made his home for over 40 years. He has 28 successful years of boardroom experience in both private and public sector organizations. And amongst his many achievements, in 2009, he was appointed chairman of the amazing National Space Centre, as well as joining the board of De Montfort University, becoming deputy chairman and pro-chancellor in 2012. He served as a deputy lieutenant of Leicestershire from 2015 before being appointed Lord Lieutenant of Leicestershire in 2018, the first Asian to be appointed to that amazing position. So we're incredibly proud of you, Mike, and you know the groundbreaking sort of path you're laying for generations to follow. And of course, in 2017, he was made an OBE for services to science, technology, business, and enterprise as well. Ladies and gentlemen, our Lord Lieutenant, Mr. Mike Kapoor, please come and address us.
Thank you for that lovely, warm welcome. Even I didn't recognise myself with some of the history that you articulated. Your Excellency, Her Worshipful Lord Mayor, distinguished guests, survivors and families. It's a real honour for me to be here today as His Majesty King Charles III's personal representative. And some of you will have heard me say before that I get 300 invitations a year to represent the King in the city and the county. Clearly too many for one person to do on their own. So I do get the benefit of selecting which ones I take and which ones I ask colleagues to undertake on my behalf. I'm of the firm view that King Charles would want and would have expected me to be here today. First, may I thank you all for joining us this afternoon to commemorate the 83rd anniversary of an often overlooked tragedy of the Second World War, the sinking of the SS TILAWA. The TILAWA, named after a Burmese port and built by the British Steam Navigation Company, served for 18 years as a passenger cargo liner. On 20th of November 1942, the TILAWA departed from Ballard Pier in Bombay, carrying 958 people, mostly from South Asia, on a perilous journey across the Indian Ocean, bound for Mombasa, Maputo, and Durban. Just 2 days later, the TILAWA was struck by 2 torpedoes from the Japanese Imperial Navy. In that moment, 280 lives were lost. Among the passengers were Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Goan Christians, and British personnel. And I think when we look at the pictures that we saw that were sent back by Magellan of the ship lying in ghostly tranquility, it's probably quite hard to understand the terror and emotion that was being felt as the incident of its sinking was coming about. 678 survivors, though, fought for their lives for 2 days at sea before being rescued by H.M.S Birmingham and SS Carthage. On 27th of November 1942, they were brought back to Bombay, forever changed by what they had endured. Today, we're deeply honoured to welcome survivors of the SS TILAWA tragedy. Their presence stands as a testament to resilience, courage, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. We're also privileged to have the families of those affected join us as we come together to pay tribute to their loved ones. We not only commemorate this tragedy, but also remember the families and communities that were impacted by this catastrophe. It is also an opportunity to recognise the stories of bravery and selflessness that arose from this event. One such story that we've heard about is that of E.B. Duncan, the radio officer aboard the SS TILAWA, who made the ultimate sacrifice, remaining at his post to send out distress signals in the ship's final moments. It's probably time to ask ourselves how many of us would have done that in those perilous moments. His actions secured life-saving rescue for those on board. As Lord Lieutenant, I've had the honour of meeting and working alongside the South Asian communities within our county. Their cultural, social, economic and spiritual contributions have enriched this county, and these stories form an essential part of our shared British identity and heritage. That is why it is so important to come together to commemorate events such as the sinking of the SS TILAWA. Families and communities across Leicestershire and around the world are connected through this one event. It is vital that we honour the memory of those who lost their lives and pay tribute to the survivors who endured unimaginable suffering. Let us extend our deepest respect to those who passed and our appreciation to those who lived to tell their stories, ensuring this history is never forgotten. In a few moments, Mr. Maciel will read a poem to lead us into a moment of silence. But before that, I would like to thank Emil Solanki, Mukesh Solanki, and their team for providing this opportunity to come together to commemorate the sinking of the SS TILAWA. May the memory of the 280 lives lost live on through our thoughts as we continue to remember them and tell their stories. And may this commemoration bring peace and recognition to all those affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And I know, Mike, you've have a pressing engagement, and you can't stay with us till the end of the program, but really grateful for you being here today and just saying a few words on what is truly a poignant and incredible commemoration of that tragedy. So thank you. We now turn our attention to the family stories of the forgotten tragedy that we very much look forward to hearing. Over the last couple of weeks, Emil has been inundated with many stories related to SS TILAWA. So we'd like to acknowledge some of these, and I'll pause for a few seconds for you to have a look at some of the comments yourself on the large screen. There's one particular one which struck a chord with me from Ajit Sond. Mr. Amin was a great history and Gujarati teacher. I was privileged to learn these two subjects from him. Secondly, 5 of my family members survived when Japanese torpedoed the SS TILAWA ocean liner, which sank in the Indian Ocean. This was a miracle. My father, Harnam Singh Sond, my mother, 2 brothers, and my sister. And it just kind of really drives the point home, doesn't it, as to how this really impacted on individuals, families, and for many generations to come. So it's now time to hear very personal stories of how the SS TILAWA has impacted on those countless families over the generations. Our interviewer today is Rifi Khan. Now, Rifi is a British South Asian producer and storyteller with over 20 years of experience in factual and documentary television for ITV, Channel 4, Sky, the BBC, and the Discovery Channel. Rifi is known for her sensitive, human-centered approach to real stories and has interviewed contributors across global communities and heritage events. She also carries a personal connection to this era in history, as her own grandfather served in the British Indian Army and sadly died during the Second World War. We're honored to welcome Rifi as she guides us through the stories of the TILAWA families today. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Rifi Khan.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're so privileged to have so many survivors and families who've lived this story through generations. So I'd like to introduce you to our 3 first interviews. Where are they? Right, so I'd like you to come here, please. And we've got Kash Kumar. Take a seat. Dr. Tina Mahindra and Kathleen Rohit. Now, these are only a few of the incredible families represented here. In the audience, we should have today, and I'd like you to just stand up and show yourself so people can talk to you afterwards, the Solanki family, the Johan family, and the other Johan family. So Hitin Johan, Yatin Solanki, Bharat Johan. If you're here, please stand up and show yourselves, because this is to honor you and all your family. Take a seat, sit down. Right. So you've heard a lot of history, and why Leicester? What is our connection? Why are we in Leicester? The TILAWA story has been to Durban, it's been to London, it's traveled the world, and we are now here in Leicester, where I think it all began. And I'm going to turn to you first, Gash, because you've been working with Emil, obviously, and uncovering this incredible tragedy. And you've also raised your families here, you've carried the story through generations, and kept it alive. Tell me your personal connection. How did you first find out about TILAWA and your own connection?
Well, this is interesting because many years ago, I would say about 18 years ago, as Emil mentioned earlier on, there was a picture in our lounge in our house in Evington of a gentleman by the name of Nichabai Chibabai. Now, that photo probably was there for many years, but we never noticed it as a family. It was always there in the cupboard, but for some reason we never noticed it. So one day I did pull it out and I said, "Who is this gentleman?" And my father said, well, that's my father. That's like, well, hold on, who's the other gentleman by the name of Mr. Vallabhbhai Chivapai Solanki, who we took as our grandfather, and we still do today, but I didn't know. It was, we never knew. It was a big puzzle, and I don't think any of my siblings or anybody else knew about that story. Slowly he started to introduce what happened in relation to the ship, very vaguely, but he mentioned that he got attacked at sea, there was lots of gold on it and so forth. But since then, and up to today, we've been researching about that ship and get the connection between Vallabhbhai Chivapai Solanki and Nichabhai Chivapai Solanki being two brothers, actually. Two brothers, and that I didn't even know. So there was a lot of hidden history for some reason, but I'm inquisitive, and as you noted, my son Emil is as well, and the two grandmothers were sisters as well. So it's all in the family.
But how did it feel? How old were you when you discovered this, and how did it feel to know that the person you referred to as your grandfather was not, in fact, your grandfather?
Well, as I said, it's about 18 years ago. By that time, our grandfather, Vallabhbhai Chivapai, had passed away anyway, but they would have known the history at the time. But as I said, we were inquisitive about what really was the story behind it, and the name, the Solanki, you know, Vallabhbhai did a lot for us as young people in Africa, brought all his children to United Kingdom, and my father, Ranchadbhai Vallabhbhai Solanki, formerly known as Nichabhai Solanki, really took him as his own father, and did everything right until the end. Even took his ashes to our village, Gujarat, Gacholi.
How does it feel for you to be here today, and how important is an anniversary event like this, and the amount of work and the way this has been now recognised and remembered? What does it mean to you personally?
Personally, it's a forgotten tragedy, and you know, from the outset, Rifi, me and Emil have been researching, as you noticed earlier on, researching, trying to put the pieces together. You know, what happened when they left the village of Gacholi back in 1942. These two gentlemen, as you see the pictures that are behind me now, the young gentleman there on the left-hand side there, Devjibai Bhagabai, he was with my grandfather, maybe others as well. But that's the only story that I know. They were on the ship. Unfortunately, my grandfather passed away. He drowned at sea, but the other gentleman did survive. But for many years, that story was never told, even within our community for some reason. People knew about it, but you know, it was never touched on for whatever reason. But for me and my son and our family, we wanted to get behind the story, find out, and of course give him, honor the gentleman who passed away at sea, and so many others as well.
Leicester. Now, it seems to be unravelling over the last 4 years, and there are so many connections. Can you give me a brief overview of how many families are involved and how many connections? And then they're literally coming up week by week, months. Explain that.
For sure. I mean, as you just saw the slide previously, there's at least 10 families there in the last many weeks because of this commemoration in Leicester. As far as I know, there was 3 we found. Well, there was our family and 2 others as well. So probably at least a dozen Leicester connection, and maybe there's more, who knows. And after all these years, and many moons ago, 18 years ago, there was only 1 family. And today there's way over a dozen. And we want to honor all of those families. That's the key thing.
And thanks to you, it's a way of closure. So moving on nicely to Dr. Tina Mahindra. Thank you so much for joining us today. Tell us your connection, what member of your family was survived or didn't survive. Love to hear from you.
Thank you. This is my grandfather, actually, who you can see here, and his name was Bakar Singh Matharu. He travelled on the ship from Bombay, was going to Mombasa, while my grandmother stayed in Punjab with her 2-year-old daughter. And he did survive this shipwreck, and from what I understand, he was actually at sea for days. He was clinging onto pieces of wood. You know, for a big, tall, 6-foot man, quite broad, that's quite something. And he was then asked, do you want to continue your journey to Mombasa, where his father, Ram Singh, was waiting for him, or do you want to go back to India? And he chose to go back to his wife and daughter to India. He was then bedridden for about 6 months because the skin on his legs was completely ruined. It had cuts, bruises, it was like oozing. And then after 6 months, he got back to normal, and with the years to come, he made another trip to Africa. It didn't put him off.
And that's extraordinary to hear. One, that there were some, obviously it was women and children first that were rescued as much as possible, but there were many men from Gujarat, who from everywhere, that actually clung onto planks of wood. And your grandfather was in the sea for at least 2 days, if not more, because there were two ships of rescue. And the skin, let alone the cold and the hunger.
Absolutely. So the other story that I heard actually only very recently from my auntie is that his father in Mombasa received a telegram to say that nobody had survived on this ship. He then sent a telegram to my grandmother in Punjab and said, you know, I've lost my son. I can't imagine what my grandmother would have gone through at that time. And then sometime afterwards, they received a telegram from Mumbai saying that there were only a handful of survivors, like sort of maybe 5 people survived, you know, what happened, this tragedy. So it's, I think, really thinking back at how my granddad lived through that, the courage that he had to go back to Africa again, it didn't put him off at all. And I think that's something that we need to really all remember and bring into our lives. So,
totally. I think that's one of the things, the tragedies that happen, if you can able to find the courage and resilience. I think that's what today is all about, courage and resilience, that your father was able to face the water again and the sea and to go back and rebuild his life. What effects it had on you within the family? Was it that something that was talked about? Was it kept under wraps? How did you learn about it?
So, I mean, one effect is my dad made sure we can all swim. So he was adamant we need to have swimming lessons. And so my grandmother, when she used to put me in bed, she used to always tell me about this story, amongst lots of other stories. And to be quite honest, growing up, I didn't really believe it because I'd never heard of it. And I was, as a teenager, a big fan of the Titanic movie. That was like the first, you know, movie I went to watch in the cinema in Leicester Square. And so growing up, I kind of, you know, was believing the story less and less, and I thought, gosh, the way my grandmother described this can't have been real, because surely I would have heard about it. And then I think around 10 years ago, in 2015, I was visiting my parents around the time of my grandfather's birthday, and I thought I'll have a little Google search, and all I knew at that time was Bombay, Mombasa, ship, and all I found was one tiny photo, black and white photo. It had the ship's name, and the only detail on there was it was torpedoed by a Japanese submarine, which I didn't know. So I asked my father, I said, so what happened to that ship, Dad? And he said it was a Japanese submarine. So that was the first time I even got the name of this ship. And then with the years to come, you know, sort of got more and more information. But for sure, for my family, I guess this is just honouring my grandfather's bravery, his courage and resilience. And I think that's something that we all, in my family, definitely pass on to our children. So my son was in the Sailing Nationals this weekend, which, again, I'm really proud of him. And, you know, to happen on the same weekend as this commemoration is quite special.
Gosh. Thank you, Tina. So Gethan, now,
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today. Tell us who your family member who's involved in TILAWA, and how and when you found out, because it wasn't that long ago, was it?
No, it wasn't that long ago either, no. So the survivor was my granddad, Brahmabhai, Mavjibhai, Kushalbhai Sinhal. As you can
Just
see,
explain the name, because it's really fascinating. It's a very commemorative name, a very special one.
yeah, so it's made up. So obviously my granddad's name was Brahmabai, his dad's name was Kushalbai, and his uncle was Mavjibai. So just to ensure that these names were passed on, they were passed on onto my granddad's names.
And is that in your lap?
Yes. So if you look at on the screen there, I've taken a snippet of my granddad, just a more bigger version of that photo there. And this would have been one of the earliest photos we would have had close to the tragedy. So he would have been about 34 about that time. So yeah, so you can see on the screen there, on the left picture, that's our community in Bombay. So he actually was in Bombay at the time. So he didn't make the journey from Gujarat to then go onto the ship. He was already in Bombay working and saving to get on this ship to then go on to Kenya, Nairobi. Yeah.
So Tommy, was he on his own? Did he have a family? Where was he going? So he was going to Kenya, obviously.
Yeah, so at this point, he was by himself. So he was making that journey across there for a better future. Of course, eventually he did meet my grandma, and they had some lovely children. My mum is my connection, and the whole family is sat on row 3 there. So all the mamas, and my mum, and yeah, sisters, brothers, cousins.
So tell me the stories that were passed on in the family. What did you know, and were you aware that there were other families? Tell me, was it talked about, was it not talked about?
Unfortunately, it wasn't talked about. We only found out, I would say a couple of months ago, that my Baba was on the ship. So we had a community event where it commemorated all the elder generation, and that was made into a book. And Cash and Emil did a presentation, didn't you, at that event, to obviously raise awareness of the SS TILAWA. And that's when my mum said, yeah, your granddad was on that ship. And we were a bit puzzled because it wasn't spoken about. And then me and my sister then started to look onto the website, and as you can see, we then found out, hold on a minute, there is Bremji Manji. So we were under the impression that they may have spelled his name wrong. But when you see his name, Brahmabai Maojibai, clearly that is him. And we finally connected 2 dots together, and yeah, we found out he was on that ship, and yeah, unfortunately was part of the tragedy.
And for you, it must have been an instant hit, because all the work that Emil and Cash have done, the website, the content on that must have been a fascinating discovery, that you've got so much at your fingertips.
Yeah, these guys have done, a lot of fantastic work, and if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have known any more about this. So you can see there, that is the actual book that was produced by our community, which features all the elders when they came to the country, and there was a part in there where it showed all the timeline of people going into Africa in 1942, and my granddad was one of those fellow people there.
How do you feel personally when you know that there's been a trauma in your family, and it's part of your bloodline, actually, and this is to all 3 of you, really? What's the profound effect it has on you as a person? Because they do talk about, mother's trauma affects the baby in the womb. So this is in your bloodline. Does it make you feel stronger? Does it inspire you? Give me a little bit of insight. First with you, Gethin, and then Tina, and then Cash, please.
Yeah, it does. I mean, my granddad was a very quiet person. He was very resilient. He'd like to help people a lot. Charity was always at the bottom of his heart. So I think it changed him as a person. Unfortunately, being in that tragedy, being in the water, having to go back to Bombay, and then a few weeks or months later, making that journey again, to fulfill the journey that you wanted to do. You have to be a strong person. There wouldn't have been many people that would want to make that journey again, but he did. And that resilience and, that strong-minded will is engulfed in all of our family. Mum, being the eldest, you know, it wasn't hard coming, you know, to Africa, well, being born in Africa and then coming across to the UK, and the same with everyone else. You know, all the other families will know the struggle that they had to face, you know, to come from Africa to the UK and to settle down. And yeah, that resilience has been passed on to us, and we try to do the best that we can all the time. And as you know, we work hard for what we have. All of his grandchildren have been to university. You know, we're all successful, and that's only because of, you know, his sacrifice there.
The legacy lives on. Gosh, what have you got to say? That you pick up on that?
Yeah,
because this is legacy as much as history.
And that was the word I was thinking of, legacy, and carrying the story to our kids and my grandkids and so forth, and passing the family story. My father was a very reserved character, so he didn't really say a lot, but we'd have to probe him, and I think Emil did a very good job, and there was a good bond between Emil and my father, and he would say things to my son that he probably wouldn't share with me. But I think to take the story where it is today, that our children, our grandchildren, and their children in the future can share this story of their ancestors and never forgetting where we came from. What do you actually say to your grandson about this story? I mean, I want to know, what is it that you're actually passing on? Because this is important to everyone in the room today. I mean, Luca's here, they live in Toronto, and he's no different from my son Emil, and he very much loves the story of TILAWA. He's here sitting at the front, very proud as a grandson, and I just want them to, know, because I never knew about it. All these years that I've lived in Leicester and so forth, it's only in the few years before my father passed away that I got to know the story. So that became a burning passion to then make sure that my kids and their kids carry the legacy. And for you, Tina, as well, it seems like so many families were living in silo, not aware that they're all going through this trauma, generational trauma by themselves. And then coming together gives you a sense of shared, inspiration as well as, sadness and grief. Tell me how you feel. Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing I was talking to somebody earlier about is a talk I went to about intergenerational trauma and how our ancestors who experienced quite tragic events, it changes their biology, and quite often, even though we weren't there at that time, and to some extent we can't appreciate how it was. But there is another side where I feel we can live that, and we're definitely doing that today. So it's something we need to sort of remember, pass on to our children, and again, just celebrate sort of that strength and resilience. And I love the fact that one of the first films you saw was Titanic. I mean, what would it mean to you to see the lava on the big screen yourself? Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to speak on behalf of everyone here today, actually. I think that will mean so much, especially for the family members who lost loved ones, and for us who, had family members who survived. I think their legacy needs to sort of really carry on. Their story needs to be told. And I think everyone needs to email Leicester Council and get the show installed in the local art museum as well, because you've done so much for them. What else would you like to see? Because we're in Leicester now. Where would you like the legacy to go forward? I think Emil and his team have done such an amazing job, and I think, definitely sort of carry on doing this amazing work. For sure, like a documentary would be amazing. A book would be amazing. And, today, just like speaking to lots of family members and hearing their incredible stories, Uncle who has, the kara that his father was wearing while he was on the ship, that carries incredible story. There's just been so many amazing things, and I think it'll be really lovely to see all those kind of small details come together. And to the other families here today, and people that have not been, obviously not on the stage with us, as it said, how does it help you heal? Does it help you heal, knowing this? Are there parts of you that look back on your life and think, gosh, now that I know this, that would have been useful if I knew before that this is part of my heritage, this is part of my
history?
Yeah, it's a good question, Rafi. And I think if had we known many years ago when my father was alive, my mum, I think there'd be a stronger bond within our family. You know, we'd be talking about it openly, of our past, how we came to this country, the struggles that they had. Because the parents obviously went through various struggles to bring and have a better life in the UK. And of course we do, but it would have been good to know that, and but to know the tragedy that, for example, my grandfather went through, and then what my father would have had to kind of like go through as a young boy, as an 8-year-old. And at that time, of course, we never had anything like mental health and you know, process like that. But yeah, definitely, if that was known, it would have been much better.
I think this is, isn't it, to having closure, seeing something that you can actually honour and know that you can celebrate in a way that you have resilience. You have all these extra tools in your tool bag that you didn't know that you had in your DNA, in your genes. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing a little bit snippet of your insights in your family and your personal stories. It's been a real privilege for everyone. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. So we now move on from Leicester to families that came from farther afield, journeys that carried them from Kenya, Uganda, and eventually here to the UK. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Kalwan Bamra, his sister Nim Bachu. Please come here, please, and take a seat. And Mr. Rakesh Patel, please join us. And Mr. Malkit Sond, please join us. Take a seat, please. Yeah, I'll take that. Take a seat. So these are families who are on their way, not to Leicester, but to East Africa on that fateful voyage. There we go. Right. So, starting with you, tell me, Nim, your story. So who was on board and what happened? Who have you got here in this lovely slide?
On this one is my Nana Ji.
So we use the microphone.
Okay, sorry. My Nana Ji, who was on the ship.
Just a bit closer.
A bit more, sorry. And
so your Nana Ji is here?
There, and he didn't survive on this. So our story will be what we have heard from everybody else. And my Nana Ji had taken my mother, his own family, to Punjab to get my mother and my Masi married. My mother at that time just turned 18 on her. She got married in May 1942. And then come November 1942, my Nana Ji, after Diwali, decided to go back to Mombasa to continue with his job and all that. And my Mama Ji, who was only 16-year-old, was supposed to be on the ship with my Nana Ji, but fortunately or unfortunately, he didn't board that ship that day due to circumstances, and he survived. And he stayed in Bombay till he found out what really happened to my Nana Ji.
So your Nana Ji didn't survive?
No, he didn't.
Which is sorry to hear that. But your family was settled in Uganda?
No, my mother was still in Punjab. She had just got married, and eventually went with my father's side of the family back to Uganda. But my mother, you know, when we were young, my mother never talked about this. We didn't know really. All I heard when she talked to her friends and or family members that my Nanaji never was on this ship, didn't survive. It really didn't mean much to us. I didn't even know the name of the ship, nothing, date-wise, nothing, honestly, till a few years ago. A lot of regret that we never asked my mother. I came to know mostly about this incident was when I went to high school. I had a school teacher called Mr. B.K. Mean, who was my history teacher. And Mr. B.K. Mean had a lot of anxiety attacks because of being the survivor on this ship. And whenever it rained, he went into anxiety spikes. And we all laughed, and I was one of them who also joined the students. So one day I came and told my mother this story that we've got a school teacher in a very happy mood. I thought it was really funny that we all laugh and this. And that's when my mom told me off, told me the whole story, and I've never forgotten that day till now, that my grandfather was on this ship. And so when I went back to that class again, Mr. Bikamin and myself made good. I've always had a soft spot, and he had a soft spot for me. And I have helped Emil now to trace his grandson and his family.
Gosh, that's incredible. And thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
So for you as brother and sister, how has it affected your family? Because you said your mother never spoke about it really. How difficult was that?
I guess for my mother, it was probably very difficult. Maybe in her mind, she probably maybe thought that if it wasn't for my wedding, that her father would have never come back to Punjab, because he was working in Mombasa. And one of the reasons for going to Mombasa was to, prosperity for the family, better earning. He was the breadwinner of the family, 7 children. So she maybe had that guilt, I'm not sure, but she never spoke much about it. So when my Nanaji was supposed to go back, his second eldest son, Takht Singh, was supposed to join him as a 16-year-old boy. He got delayed and wasn't allowed to board the ship. So Nanaji told him that you come on the next ship. And he then stayed in Bombay waiting for the next ship whenever that was supposed to sail. Having then learned after a couple of days that the ship had been torpedoed, not knowing whether his father has survived. So there was just all this investigation that he'd be doing. They were, what's happened to my father. Eventually, in the end, he then decided to go back to Punjab with the thinking that probably the father hasn't survived. As a 16-year-old boy, to travel from Bombay to Punjab in that era, that emotion, the loss, and going back to Punjab to mention to his mother, siblings, that probably the chances are our father hasn't survived.
Such a hard thing to do as a 16-year-old. But even now, Nim, as you talk about it, does it feel emotional? Is it because you didn't have the opportunity to talk about it? And why is something like this today, this anniversary, this event, so important and poignant? I can see the emotions.
Oh, definitely. There's a lot of guilt, I do feel. I think even I wish this was done 15 years ago, that my mother would have been able to come to this. There is that guilt that we never honestly shared with my mother. And now when I read about all these things that, I don't know, honestly, what my mother has gone through. No idea. But then, as Kalwan says, she carried the guilt also that because of her marriage, they all went from Mombasa to India to get her married. If the marriage wasn't there, they would have been all together. So there is that guilt in me also, not sharing ever my mother's, never even talking. After knowing what had happened. But we didn't even know the name of the ship, didn't know anything, nothing at all.
It must feel so cathartic to be here today.
Oh, definitely. And yeah, I especially made a point of coming. I have come from Vancouver, and it was very important to come for this function.
Thank you so much for flying over.
So, and I just want to say, I did say to my husband that, do you want to come? And he said, of course I have to come for my mum.
And yeah, she'll be watching and very, very proud of you. So, now, BK Amin. Now, this is where you two are connected, aren't you? So tell me about that. How is he connected?
So, Mr. BK Amin was my grandfather, photograph here.
So Rakesh Patel's grandfather is BK Amin, that happened to be Nim's secondary school
Nim's
teacher.
And
taught what subject? What subject did he teach?
So Mr. Amin, my grandfather BK Amin was a history teacher in Kampala, Uganda, where he taught for over 30 years, and several generations passed through him. A lot of people have, since I've discovered about this TILAWA, which was only about a week ago, I've been posting about my grandfather, TILAWA, and this whole experience. And a number of responses I've had back from people, very similar to Nim, speaking very fondly, very affectionately about my grandfather, and also conveying the same story of how when it rained and it was thunder and lightning, he would fret a lot and tell his students, quickly shut the windows. So naturally, he, being a passenger on that ship, a survivor of that ship, lived the rest of his life with that trauma and fear. Along with him on that ship was my grandmother, who sits next to him, Lakshmi Benami. And with them, it's my mother.
And I think at that moment,
my mother.
good to play the video. We actually have a video, don't we?
My mother, the three of them were on the ship together, traveling from India to Africa when the ship was torpedoed. My mother is alive today. She's 88, and she has done a video for you all to see.
Thank you so much, and we're going to play that video now. Thank you so much.
Remember in India, about Africa jata a steamer. Weapons ले जाता था fighting झगड़ा करना. So हमारा बहुत वाला ने कहो कि तमे तमारा weapons तमे लेने जाओ छो. तो પછી हमने જોવા દો અથવા તમે કહી દો તો કે ના અમારી પાસે નથી અમારા બોટવાળા છે તો પેલા બોટવાળા કે અમને ખબર છે તમને એક ચાન્સ આપે છે તો તમે અમને જવા દો અથવા અમને કહી દો તો કે અમારું ફાયરિંગ થાય છે તો આપણે બધા પ્રિકોશન લેવા છે કશું પ્રિકોશન લઈ શકીએ તો આપણે નીચે ઉતરી જઈએ નીચેના બોટના ફર્સ્ટ ફ્લોરમાં જ્યાંથી ચડ્યા હતા ત્યાંથી તો તે લોકો ત્યાંથી ઉતરવા માંડ્યા એટલે બહુ વાગે તે લોકોને ખબર પડી કે ફરી પણ બહુ મારશે તે લોકો ઊભા રહ્યા પછી એક બોમ્બના અવાજથી બધા ગભરાયા એટલે બધા કરવા માંડી ગયા પછી જ્યારે સેકન્ડ બોમ્બ વાગવાને તે પહેલાં બધા ઉતરવા માંડી ગયા કે આપણે ઉતરી જઈએ એમ કરવા માંડ્યા પણ કમ્પ્લીટલી ઉતરાય એવું નહોતું ફાધરે ઉપર હતા એ બીમાર હતા તો મારા પપ્પા કે તમે જા તમે પપ્પા તમે લેવો હું બેબી મને બેબી જ કહેતા હતા પછી બેબીને હું પકડીને ઊભો છું. પછી હું એને કોટને નીચે આવે તો હું હાથમાંથી છૂટી ગઈ. તો કે ત્યાં હવે સારો છૂટી ગઈ છે. એમ કે જવું તો આપણે બધાની સાથે જવું છે, નહીં તો નથી જવું. સેકન્ડ બોમ્બ પછી બધા પેસેન્જર જેટલા બધા હતા એ બધા દોડ કરવા માંડ્યા. એમાં કોઈનું છોકરું હાથમાં જતું રહે, કોઈની વાઈફ જતી રહે, કોઈનો હસબન્ડ જતો રહે. પછી ખારવો હોય ને અંદર લુક આફ્ટર કર, એને બધાને લાકડી મારીને કાઢ્યા કે બધા ઉતરો. આખી ફૂલ હતી તો નહીં. પહેલાં મારા બાપુજીને મને બેસાડ્યો, પછી બધાને બેસાડ્યું. પછી કોઈ પાણી માગે, કોઈ ખાવાનું માગે. થોડુંક જ પાણી હોય, એક એક ઘૂંટડો લોકોને પાણી આપે, ખાવાનું બિસ્કીટ આપે એક એક. અને પછી થોડો ટાઈમ ક્રુઝર જેવા એ આપણને શોધે તો ક્રુઝર થોડી વાર ફરીને ક્રુઝર આવે. પછી સેકન્ડ ટાઈમ આવે ક્રુઝર. એટલું જ થયું છે. પછી અમને અમારા ગામમાં જ્યાં હતા ત્યાં પછી બેસાડીને બધા મોકલાવે. પણ આખું ફેમિલી આખા બોટમાં એક અમારું છે એટલે જાણવા માંગતા હતા.
Our gratitude and thanks for your mother to record that. It's really very, very special for us. And thank you for sharing us your story. How has it affected her in terms of her life? Did it traumatize her? Did it limit her in any way? And yeah.
Well, you know, we came, my mother and I and my family came to England and settled in London in 1968. In 1972, following Idi Amin's declaration, you know, that everybody had to leave the country, my grandparents came to London, and they lived with us. Well, my grandfather until he passed 4 years later, and my grandmother for several years after that. And we'd heard of this story over the years, but like most of everybody else, just small bits of it, tidbits of it, and really never really thought much of it, other than wow kind of thing, but never made any inquiries or anything beyond that. And they never spoke much about it in detail either. And my mother, who you saw, you know, what she spoke today and what you saw was a 5-minute edit of a 20-minute lucid conversation depicting what she experienced. That's 20 minutes longer than we'd heard living with her through most of our lives. And my grandparents never really spoke about it either. And it almost seemed like, you know, to us, at the time, we just didn't think about it. But when we look back now and you think, crazy, incredible. And I got to know about this foundation only a week ago, and yeah, just a week ago. And in fact, I believe it was you, Auntie, who reached out to one of my mother's cousin brothers in the US, Ramesh Emil, and he called me. He said, "Listen, you know, people are, you know, commemorating this event that I know your grandparents and your mother were on that ship, and you should reach out to them."
And thank goodness they did. That's
yeah. And the fine doctor here reached out to me, and you know, yeah. Then I started inquiring. My son here is with me today. He's the great grandson, you know. So for him, their survival means we're here, and this story is a legacy to be passed down from generation to generation, and we're eternally grateful to Emil and his team for drawing this to our attention.
Thank you so much. And moving on to our final guest, Mr. Malkeet Sond. Now, your father, Sardar Didar Singh Sond, was 23 years old when he set sail on that ship. You yourself have an eminent past. You represented Uganda in the 1972 Olympics. It's a privilege to have you here today. Can you share a few words about your father's journey and what happened to him?
My father, Siddharth Didar Singh Son, started his journey from Punjab, pind called Jajekla, and he was heading to Jinja, where his 5 brothers were already there. They boarded the ship from Bombay, and then he told me that the ship was bombed. He never said torpedoed. He says, my ship was bombed, you know. And that night, they had celebrated Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab, and they asked the caterers even to do the special jalebis for them, which they did. At 12 o'clock exactly, they did the poke and finish off what do you call it, divan. All the everybody was there. All the communities got together there. Jalebis were served. After the poke was done, within 5-10 minutes, they heard the bomb. He said the ship was bombed. And when this happened, the whole hoo-ha started there. People were running around the life test, everything, and then they don't know what's happened. In the meantime, after he said another hour's time, there were some people were on plank, some people said, okay, there are some boats there, please, you can go. Nobody would run, nobody would go down the boats, nobody wanted to go, you know. And one boat was there. He said, I went down there. Back home, he was quite strong. He used to go to the wells to get the water from the villages, from the wells. And then he said, I went, held the ropes, went down there. They sent me back because they said, you go back, this boat is overloaded now. And as soon as he went back, he saw the rope broken, that boat sank there with overloading everything. Then he didn't come back. He didn't want to go back on that. Eventually, at 1 o'clock, he said, there was another bomb, he said again, which we said torpedoed. And that, we were on the top there. People were down, it just went within seconds, the ship sank. And he said, I was there, we all had no option, we jumped. When they jumped, and then he got hold of a wooden plank, something like that. And he was on that. He was that strong, everybody there. They didn't think that was light, dark completely, and couldn't see no one, no ship, nothing. Eventually, sometimes the waves would throw them left or right or there, and sometimes take them down, but he didn't. He said, we survived, he held on to it, the ropes and everything. First, that night passed away, and second day, when it was daytime all day, still he couldn't see nothing. But after next day, sometime in midday, he saw some of the wooden plank people far away seeing each other, but they couldn't come to each other. They were relying on the waves only, you know, and then say, we were doing something like that, beholding, then we were also scared that we might not sink. Night was very tough, he said, because we were feeling sleepy, we were feeling cold, you know, and then what happened was, he said, we used to put our water on the ice, it used to hurt us. And then eventually, second day passed, third day, I saw few people, others. They came nearby. One plank we pulled, we tied it up. I saw here Mr. Son family here. Yes, he described what that. I know that family very well as well. Mervyn Singh Son, one of that son, the family member, was my father held him, and he was on my father's plank, and my father saved him. In this one here, Mervyn Singh was a bank. He was a bank manager in over I know very well, and he passed away in Toronto. I know the whole family. But anyway, this history is something different. Eventually, he said, when this thing happened, we were waiting. I didn't think I will ever survive. Third day was a very difficult day, and that night that I was feeling sleepy, going down. I thought, oh my God, today I think I'm going to go. I was sleeping. The next thing, I'll sing. Next thing, I'll say what to do now. Eventually, there was some steamers passed by. They tried to wave their shirts. Nobody took notice. They couldn't see it. Then some airplanes passed. They still did wave their shirts. You know, nobody saw it. One day, that third day, there was one airplane came over, started going around where they were, and they were waving this. That's how we got confident that they spotted us now. There's some help coming definitely, and that's when H.M. Birmingham came around.
And that was the first rescue ship, H.M.S Birmingham, the rescue ship.
That's right.
I'll have to pause you there, but can you just quickly show us? You have two special remnants.
This is the actual Kada.
The kada that your
This is a
grandfather...
kada, which my father was actually wearing that time when he sank. And he told me, Papa Pundya, when I go, you wear this, you know. And I have got this with here. I've got my grandson, my son, everybody here today to come and see all those things. And there is one kanga which I've got. This was not in the ship. This was given to him when they went to Bombay, back to Bombay. Blankets, they were given kurta pajamas, they were given some money, them oil, everything, so they could go back to Punjab and all that, because their skin was all gone, everything. And so he mentioned everything to me. He said, look, Guru Maharaj Babaji saved us, and his belief was that Guru Nanak Dev Ji's Gurpurab we celebrate that day. I survived, and he was a very strong believer of that. And eventually he became such a holy person, everything, from gurdwaras, from building constructions, everything, but very brave, you know. And like I've got his kada there. I've got his glasses. Even now when he passed away here in England, 1984, I've got his turban with me. I've got his kada with me all the time, which I wear. I don't wear gold kada. I've kanga, I keep with me all the time. That knife he used to keep me because whenever he went for construction work, he used to use for some cutting vegetables and other thing. But he kept me with him. Most of the people here are there, they know that the love of a mother. As far I'm concerned, with all due respect to the mothers, my bonding was my father, everything. I lived with my life with him. I stayed with him. He always alive for me. I'm grateful to Guru Gobind, all of you. I still feel so sorry for those who did not survive. I am, fortunately, I had him here so many years. He died 84, no, he never died. Look at me. That's a very big thing in life, you see. And what I've seen today over here, I thought I was a very brave man, actually. Today also I broke a little bit when I saw what information he have carried, which I never seen before.
It was so lovely to hear your passion and the legacy that lives within you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much to everyone else as well. Thank you, Nim. Thank you, Kalawan. And thank you as well, Rakesh. Thank you so much. And you can catch up and share more of your stories afterwards. We have a bit of time after the event finishes. So thank you so much. And now we are moving on to probably the most profound of... Thank you. We're now moving on to probably the most profound moment of our program, which is actually listening to two survivors from SS TILAWA. May I introduce you to Mr. Gaffer A. Osman. They are making their way slowly. And Mr. Arvindbhai Jani, we are so privileged to have them here. We were due to have Mr. Mervyn Maciel, but unfortunately he's 96 years old and has pneumonia. Please take a seat. And obviously they're being accompanied by, Mr. Jani is accompanied by his daughter Palvi to help out if needed. And Mr. Osman is not being accompanied by anyone because he's... Yeah, another, yes, so we've got another Mrs. Bina, obviously, I know. There we go, microphones to your fathers. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute privilege and honor to have you here, Mr. Osman and Mr. Arvindbhai Jani.
Thank you very much.
And first of all, tell us, how young are you both?
I'm 21.
21, going on, I believe...
Plus 65.
So 21, but I think it's actually 86. And Mr. Osman, may I ask your age, please?
91.
91. Round of applause.
My elder brother.
Now, how old were you both when you were aboard the SS TILAWA?
When the ship was sunk, I was 3 years old. With my mother, I was 3 years old.
And what was your story? How did you survive? What happened at night?
My mother tied me at the back here, so that, you know, when she went down to the water...
In her sari, was it?
In the boat, yeah. So she tied me up here.
And then what happened?
Yeah. And then we got into the, you know, helping boat, and the boat took us to the helping ship.
And how did your mother cope with that? Because were you on your way to Africa? Were you on your obviously you were anyway?
We are going from Africa to Mumbai.
He was. I'll give a little bit of context on that. So they were going. Dad was the fourth in the lineup of children, second son. They were going from Bombay to Kenya, which, as many have spoken this evening, his dad was working there, looking after the family. So him and his mum were boarded to go and visit him in Kenya. And the recollection of him being so young, but the story that his mother told other people when they came back to the village was that she tied him on her back, got what she could of her belongings. They ended up in the boat, but in the manic of everyone trying to do that, he slipped off her back and fell into the water. So she took him and managed to get onto the boat, but with everyone trying to do the same thing, and someone lifted him from the water back into the boat, where she was then, back with her.
So Mr. Jani, your mother witnessed you falling in the dark black of the night into the water.
Yep. She just jumped to get into the water, or to get the help, and then somebody picked us up.
Saved you. And then what happened? Did your mother and you go back to Mumbai, and then from there what happened to your family?
What happened, that boat was slowly was picked up by the ship, and then we were taken back to Mumbai.
And then what happened to the family? Did you then stay in India, or did you then go back to?
My father was in Africa. He heard about the ship sinking, so he thought, we are already dead. So he was celebrating our death certificate.
So just a bit of context on that as well, is that, of course, no telephone, mobiles, so Bar basically sent a message back, telegram, to say that they've survived, but of course Bapuji hadn't got that news. They eventually ended going back to their village. On the arrival, they were doing their last rites, having not heard that they've actually survived. So
you went back to your own funeral?
Because in all days there was no, telegraph or telephone to ring and say we have survived. So they thought we have gone.
So I think just a bit of context on that, that was the most tragic moment for Mother to have gone through that. And it took her a long time to recover from that.
What was the impact on your mother then, Mr. Jani? What was the impact on your mother of having witnessed this trauma as a,
Well, she was so emotional, She never left me alone any time. She was all the time with me everywhere, She thought she survived because of me, Yeah. So it's very emotional. She never left me alone anywhere.
So you created a very close bond between you two, despite the other other children.
That's true.
And how did that impact your life then?
Huh?
How did it impact your life then? Did you?
Because I was only 3 years old, so slowly I was growing with her, and she was so emotional with me. She loved me so much, so I can never forget that,
So just a bit of back history on that is that even though this tragedy happened, she still went back and forth to Kenya, and what was 4 siblings ended up being 8 siblings, which then, because of that bravery that she and that decision she took, ended up to being just over 60 family members now. Gosh. With the siblings, the children, the grandchildren, etc. So that one sort of jump she took equated to who we are right now.
And destiny, that you were meant to survive, and you've lived such a long and rich life.
Yes, very, very lucky. Because of her Ashirwad, blessing.
And didn't you become a comedian at one point as well? Do you not have this happy disposition?
Oh, no.
Dad sacrificed a lot, so his ambition, his dream was always to be an actor, theatre, which he did in Kenya on the stage. But he gave it all up to go back to look after Bar in her last days, which meant that he then took on the responsibility of looking after his siblings, bringing them all to the UK, getting them settled, to give them the life they are. But yeah, I mean, he's a happy-go-lucky guy. He's good.
Very commendable. Thank you so much. And moving on to Mr. Osman. Please share with us. You were, I believe, 8 years old at the time.
I was 8 years.
8 years old. And you obviously recollect everything. Tell us what happened and who were you travelling with?
Actually, we were traveling from Bombay to from Bombay to Africa. Journey started from Bombay to then we had some. That was about 15 days later. When we traveled 15 days later, we got approached this Japanese people, this boat, you know, and the negotiation was there. What was that we didn't know. And later on, there was a warning to passengers to save the life, and this is happening. It could be danger for everybody. So we just got dressed up this jacket, and we jump. We have to force ourselves to jump in the water.
Do you remember jumping?
Yeah. Before the torpedo, first torpedo was there. The second, when they started second, we were in water. You know, party of problem.
And who were you with then? Was it with your mum, your dad? Who were you with?
Yeah, I was with my mom. My mom and my younger brother, 3 years old. When we jumped there, I was with my mom, and 3 years old my son, my brother was jumped in another boat with unknown.
So separated yourself. So you with your mom and your younger brother, 3 years.
Unknown woman, you know, from East Africa. And later on, about 2 days, we went on the water, and they rescued us after 2 days.
What was it like in that? Do you remember those memories of being on the boat, and did you have food? How did you survive, and what was going through your head? You were 8 years old, so you.
No, I didn't follow you.
Do you remember what it's like to be on the rescue boats?
मतलब मुझे एक अफसानों से वो होती बागंबाग थी.
Biscuits and water in the boat. Did you think you were going to survive, or?
Big thoughts it when I was no
choice.
There was no choice, you know.
They were scared, but they had no choice. They were.
Don't take a microphone yet. Sorry.
He's saying that they were scared, but they had no choice. They had nothing else they could do.
What did it feel like when the H.M.S Birmingham finally came?
Boat बचाओ ना अपने हम हेलीकॉप्टर से हेलीकॉप्टर से
They were lifted by helicopter.
Rescued by
What, they put a ladder down or a line?
Yeah. By helicopter.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. They हमें पहला हमें तरह pero हेलीकॉप्टर ऊपर ब्रिटिश गवर्नमेंट ना था ने अपने पेलो जो यूं के अब अभी तो बनी हुई है અને તરત જ હેલિકોપ્ટર એમને 2 દિવસ બાદ हमने રેસ્ક્યુ કર્યા.
એટલે હેલિકોપ્ટરમાં તમે ગયા?
Right, helicopter rescue.
So that, yeah, they hovered, they found them, and then they came back to take them.
And put them onto the ship.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How's Mr. Osman, how does it feel to have survived? Do you feel blessed? Do you feel lucky? And how has it affected your life?
કેવું લાગે છે તમે બચી ગયા તમને બચીને શું તમને ફીલ થયું કેવું
એવું થયું કે ત્યાં તો કોઈને ટાઈમ ન હતી કંઈ વિચારવાની પછી તો બચી ગયા તો બહુ ઉપરવાળાની એટલી મેળવણી કે આપણે બચી ગયા નહીં તો અહીંયા ત્યાં પાણીમાં કોઈ બચવાની આશા હતી નહીં.
So in the water, they never thought they would survive. So it's a blessings from above that they have survived and they came through it.
And thank you so much. And moving on to, I mean, obviously, you know, you're the next generation. I mean, what does it feel for you, both of you, that, you know, your father, Mr. Jani, is here? I mean, if it wasn't for him surviving, you would be here. How does it make you feel to have this legacy, this trauma in your family? How has it affected you?
It's amazing because I think Dr. Tina was talking earlier that we never really believed Dad. We just thought he was joking when he talked about this with the kids, as in with us kids. And then with our kids, he told a story, and then it was like, okay, maybe there's something to it. And I remember Bina doing a lot of the research, finding out. And you know what? It's a bit surreal to think that something like this happens and there's not been no one ever actually spoke about it. Nothing was documented. Nothing was mentioned. It was a big deal, and especially sort of South Asian community. How many people are affected from, I mean, look at it tonight. I mean, here in Leicester, we've been everywhere. We've been lucky enough to go to all the places and celebrate this and sort of think about those that we lost. But we're really proud of him because he did so much. He gave up his ambition of wanting to be, on the stage in a theatre. And look, he's here today on the stage, but, in a way, not the way he would have wished to, but he's taken every moment, grabbed it and made something for himself, and we're really proud of him and his grandkids. And he just celebrated his first granddaughter's wedding 3 weeks ago, so the guy's like, it's a big deal.
Thank you. So I think on that lovely note, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Osman. Thank you so much, Mr. Jani, and your lovely daughters, Mr. Jani. Thank you so much for joining us today. And everyone, thank you so much. A round of applause for all the wonderful stories and legacies we've heard today. And I'm going to hand you over back to Kamlesh for the rest of the programme. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Indeed, once again, put your hands together for Rifi.
Thank you.
And our TILAWA families who've shared some incredible stories and some memories. And how exciting that another survivor has been found, Mrs. Sarojben Patel, who we saw on that video. But these two gentlemen, their bravery, their memories that they've shared are really the embodiment of that 1,000 passengers on that ship, many of whom survived and some of whom sadly didn't. But these two gentlemen really have transported us back to that fateful day when that tragedy happened. And for them to be sitting in front of us and recollecting that, I think has been a really, really special moment for us. So I think we should all stand and put our hands together for these two amazing gentlemen and for the trauma that they've been through in their lives. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's really been a very special moment, I have to say. Another survivor, Mrs. Tej Prakash Mangat, is in her early 90s, and she's living in Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States. She's unable to attend today's commemoration, but she wanted to share a few words. So let's watch.
My name is Tej Prakash Mangat. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I am a survivor of 1942 TILAWA tragedy. Many lost their family, relatives, and friends on that night. I lost my mother and 3 brothers. My father and I survived. Thank you, Emil, and all the others organizers for keeping our memories and stories alive. God bless. Thank you.
That's Mrs. Tej Prakash Mangat over in the United States. So can you believe we have at least 5 known people who survived in 1942, and how very proud we are of you and to know you, really. We're so pleased that you're still with us today to share your absolutely incredible stories, and we love you dearly. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, put your hands together for all our courageous and amazing survivors. Next, I'd like to invite a member of the SS TILAWA Foundation from South Africa, Tahir Sema. Now, Tahir will summarize the work of the foundation, their collaboration with TILAWA 1942 at last year's Durban 82nd anniversary event, and share some TILAWA stories from South Africa. The founder, Mr. Haroon Tar Mohammed, is unable to attend this year, but he's been a leading figure in the South African sort of end of this journey, researching and sharing his findings as well. So, Tahir, could you please join us in the front and share some of your words for us, please? Thank you. Here's Tahir.
Our heritage is not only in what we survived, but in what we built after survival. Distinguished guests, dignitaries, survivors, and descendants, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today carrying 2 very great honors. One, as the grandson of Maulana Qasim Sema, a survivor of SS TILAWA, and 2, as a representative of the SS TILAWA Foundation. Carrying with me the collective efforts of families, historians, and communities who have refused to let this story fade into the depths of the sea. We gather here not just to remember a shipwreck, but to restore dignity to a forgotten chapter of shared human history, a story of faith, loss, survival, and resilience that connects India, South Africa, and the world. My grandfather, Maulana Qasim Sema, was only 22 when he completed his studies in India. And then he boarded the TILAWA in November 1942 to return home to Newcastle, KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. A teaching post awaited him and a hopeful future, but the world was at war. And hope that week would be tested in the most harrowing way imaginable. Before his departure, his mentor gave him advice that would later become a lifeline. He told him to pray and recite certain verses. He carried those words with him, and on that ship, he shared them with 2 very close companions. They prayed together, unaware that within days, those verses would be the only thing standing between life and death. In the early hours of the 23rd of November 1942, my grandfather was jolted awake by what he described as an eerie whistle. The piercing shriek of a Japanese torpedo. Moments later, the TILAWA shook violently. Screams filled every corridor. Passengers ran for their lives. The captain's promise of protection vanished into panic. Crew members, the very people entrusted to save others, abandoned the ship first, taking the lifeboats. My grandfather, alone and terrified, ran to the deck. He grabbed hold of a rope to climb down into a lifeboat, but the boat drifted away. He climbed back up, tried again, The second one jammed halfway. Finally, with every ounce of strength and faith he had left, he dropped into a third lifeboat, already on the water. It was meant for just 8 people, but it soon overflowed as desperate passengers clambered aboard. As they rowed away, they saw the unthinkable. A second torpedo struck. The great TILAWA erupted into flames and disappeared into the Black Sea. 281 souls were lost. In that tiny lifeboat, surrounded by nothing but darkness and waves, my grandfather battled extreme exhaustion, hunger, and great despair. He vomited from seasickness, too weak to eat the very hard biscuits from the survival box that were given to them. He later told me and others, I was certain that even if land appeared, I would not survive to reach it. And yet he never stopped. He never stopped reciting the prayers that were taught to him. Between waves as high as mountains, he held on to faith, and life held on to him. On the second morning, through mist and rain, they spotted a distant ship. They tore a piece of a red shirt and waved it as a flag. Slowly, the ship turned towards them. This was the H.M.S Birmingham, a British battleship had come to their rescue. When he was lifted aboard, drenched and trembling, they handed him black coffee and biscuits. He would tell us, never again did anything taste so sweet. That moment, that sip of coffee, that breath of life, was the beginning of a new chapter, one written not in silver, but in service. Back in South Africa, my grandfather did not dwell on trauma. He transformed survival into purpose. He used the life he was given to serve others, to be a light where once there was darkness. This is his legacy. This is a proud South African story. Today, as I stand here representing the SS TILAWA Foundation, I bring with me the work of so many people who have spent decades uncovering forgotten records, tracing families, and piecing together this lost story. Our mission as the foundation is simple but profound, and it is captured in our core objectives: to spread awareness, to create a comprehensive passenger list, to establish true ownership of the cargo, to record and tell any stories that relate to this tragedy, to recognize and respectfully mourn, and then to reflect on the impact this tragic event had on the families. Each of these objectives is not just a mission statement, it is a call to action to descendants, historians, and educators to ensure that this chapter is never erased again. And now I am deeply honored to say that here today with us at this commemoration is Professor Ghulam Wahid from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He is a renowned historian who has dedicated much of his career to preserving the stories of the South African Indian community. Professor Wahid will be interviewing some of you today as part of the forthcoming official SS TILAWA book. A book that will help teach this story and its many important lessons to future generations. For South Africans, The TILAWA is more than just a maritime tragedy. It is a parable of who we are as a people. A people forged in struggle, tested by storms, and lifted by faith. My grandfather's survival is a reminder that even in the darkest waters, the human spirit can still float. As we remember the souls that were lost, let us speak their names not in sorrow, but in honor. Let us remember that while silver can be lost and found, life itself, the courage, the faith, the legacy is the true treasure. On behalf of the SS TILAWA Foundation, on behalf of my country, South Africa, and on behalf of my family, I say, we remember, we honor, we will never forget. May their souls rest in eternal peace. Thank you very much. There's also a beautiful video we'd like to share with you from the 82nd commemoration that took place last year in Durban, South Africa. Thank you.
My father is one of the last known survivors of the tragedy of the SS TILAWA. I am here to represent my father because he couldn't come to the 82nd commemoration. It's an honor to be here and to meet the extended TILAWA family. We are here to remember the 28 lost souls and to make sure that this part of important maritime history is not forgotten.
I'm here today because my grandfather was on the TILAWA. He survived it and he jumped into the ocean, clinging onto a piece of wood. And he survived. He was adrift for 3 days before he was rescued. While in the water, his feet was bitten by monster fish. He recuperated back in Bombay and he came back to South Africa.
My dad, and he was the only survivor of our family. I had lost my daddy, my granny, father's mom, and 3 aunts who were much younger than him, and my uncle, Ibrahim. He was 2 years younger than my dad. And they all perished. Only my dad survived. Very tragic and emotional.
It is wonderful to meet all these people who unfortunately were afflicted by this disaster. We can at least get an opportunity to meet the friends and families of the people that were affected.
When they were torpedoed, and as much as the rest of the family pleaded with him to come into the lifeboat, he insisted on fetching his ID documents and his passport, and he went to the cabin, and that is when the doors sealed and he drowned, unfortunately. But my family always speak about him and they have such great memories of him. We still have that legacy and we still talk about him till this day. And we talk about all the survivors.
And we hope this muhabbat, this friendship, this family bond, the TILAWA family bond we have formed now, we hope and we pray that it remains with us forever.
On that day, actually on the 24th of November, that was the next day after the tragedy, he literally spent his 21st birthday on the raft. He was lucky to survive the tragedy. It was said that he actually used to tell us that, you know what, this is my second life, so I'm going to live for long.
He had a life jacket on, and he helped the crew at the rafters into the safety boats, and then he fell when the second torpedo hit the ship. He fell into the water with life jacket. a rafter, a big sort of timber. He got into that, and he saved a lady, and he saved a man.
Being 3 days on the raft in the mid ocean, you know, in the sea, for 3 days and 3 nights, which is amazing. And Alhamdulillah, he had saved a few. Up to this day, we still hear the stories. So we are really, really glad to be part of, to be his kids, Alhamdulillah.
And I'm proud of my dad. My father was a hero. He was very courageous.
You know, today's commemoration is part of my heritage, and I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much.
We are intensely emotional at this point in time to be part of this historical event, and we are in absolute awe as we are on this boat cruise to think that my granddad survived for 3 days, 3 nights on that raft.
This is a very, very proud moment. We're really proud of him.
My late grandfather and his younger brother were on the ship. He survived, and unfortunately his younger brother didn't. So we pray for them, and I think this is a great event where we reliving the memories and commemorating them, because they have been forgotten for too long.
It may be very sad moments also, but it's the revival of the spirits, and I strongly believe that though they may be deceased, they're very much alive, and they're smiling upon us for reliving their existence and their memories. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed, and Tahir, thank you for your very special effort coming all the way from South Africa to be here with us today, and also representing the foundation and giving us that truly wonderful update as well. Thank you. We've heard from the survivors and families, and so we enter the final stage of our program this afternoon. And thank you so much indeed for being so patient with us. There's a lot we've gone through, but I'm sure you'll agree that it's a story that really does need to be told. We'll now hear from our special guests and well-wishers. So first we'll commence this section of our special guest speeches with a video message from the legendary British Asian reggae star Apache Indian, whose music, of course, has united cultures across the world.
Hi guys, it's me Apache Indian, live and direct. Sorry that I couldn't be with you today, but wishing the team of TILAWA 1942 all my love, blessings and support on commemorating the 83rd anniversary in Leicester today. Remembering the 280 people that died 23rd of November 1942, middle of World War II in the Indian Ocean, and of course the survivors and their families. How did we miss this in history? In the family stories? How did we miss it in our country, in our culture? I mean, I feel almost guilty that this is something that I never knew about. I would like to thank my brother Kash Kumar for bringing this to my attention. He knows you have my full support. In fact, this bothers me, the not knowing and why it hasn't been reported to the wider communities. And if there's anything that I can do, please you let me know. So thank you to everybody that's showing support today. I am there with you in spirit. We have, you know, as artists, the name, the fame, the platforms to use. I don't see many artists using those platforms, but I certainly have done and will do for this cause. So remember me, Apache Indian, I am with you.
Next, it's a great honor to welcome Her Excellency Mrs. Nimisha Madhwani, the Ugandan High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. A distinguished diplomat, she's represented her nation with grace and vision, strengthening ties between Uganda, Britain, and the wider world. Her presence tonight is not only a mark of international friendship, but also something deeply personal. For beyond her public role, she carries within her family the living memory of SS TILAWA 2, as a descendant of survivors of that forgotten tragedy. And so her voice today here bridges diplomacy with remembrance, ensuring that the story of TILAWA is honored across generations and nations. Please welcome Her Excellency, Mrs. Madhwani, to share her Tilawa story.
The Lord Lieutenant, Mr. Michael Kapoor, the official representative of His Majesty the King, please convey my thanks to His Majesty the King for honoring our request. I know he has already left, but perhaps you could convey. Madam Mayor of Leicester, what an honor to meet you, and thank you for the welcome to all of us here. And hopefully we can welcome you to Uganda as well. You have everybody in Leicester's, or half of them are from Uganda, so I think you need to come with them on a plane, perhaps, rather than on a ship. As it's so cold in here, you can imagine how awful it must have been in that tragedy. So, distinguished guests, honored survivors and families and friends, today we gather not only to remember the sinking of a ship, but to honor the extraordinary courage, sacrifice, and destiny shaped by one of the most overlooked tragedies of the Second World War, the sinking of the SS TILAWA on 23rd November 1942. Far beneath the vast Indian Ocean, 900 nautical miles north of Seychelles, lies the silent wreck of the SS TILAWA. But here in Leicester, her story rises again through the memories of survivors, families, and descendants, those whose presence ensures this history will never fade. We especially acknowledge the survivors present today and the families who carry their legacy. Your presence is a testament to resilience. Among those aboard the TILAWA were 5 remarkable women, in my opinion. My mother, Minaben Ram Singh Chauhan, her sisters, Gangavan, Sushila Ben, and Vasanti Ben, and their mother, Jadav Ben. They were not soldiers, they were not prepared for war. They were simply students, little girls, returning home to Tanga, in Tanganyika, after completing a year of study at the Gurukul, Baroda. They were traveling on the SS TILAWA from Mumbai to Mombasa, looking forward to going home. And my grandmother to see her husband, and the children to see their father. Well, I guess I wouldn't have been here had they not survived. Their journey was meant to be peaceful. Instead, it became the fight of their lives. In the stillness of night, the first Japanese torpedo struck the TILAWA, throwing the ship into chaos. Amid the screams and the confusion, these young girls and their mother became some of the last passengers to jump, climbing onto British lifeboats or any lifeboat after the first explosion. And every day since I was a little girl, I think I've heard, "Ame kutko mairo, ame jump kairu, bada boom martata." You know, it resounded every day. I mean, all the time, and you could never forget it as kids. And I've been hearing the stories today. From those fragile lifeboats, they then witnessed the unthinkable, a second torpedo tearing into the ship. With indescribable shock and trauma, they watched the TILAWA break and sink before their eyes, knowing that so many of their friends were trapped, struggling and disappearing under their waves. That moment stayed with them for the rest of their lives. Yet, somehow they survived the night, the waves, and the terror. British lifeboats carried later through the harsh seas brought them back to Bombay, alive, but changed forever. They became extremely, extremely strong, independent women. Teachers, 3 of them were teachers, Gangamen, the eldest, had just gotten married, apparently, and my cousins Rita and Mamta and Aarti, and they're married with their children. They must be saying, oh my goodness, how Lord has saved her. And she had her stories, but today she's already passed. And then destiny intervened in one of the most extraordinary way. On the shores of Bombay, the girls were rescued and cared for by Nima Ben Mehta, Savita Ben Mehta, daughters of Nanji Kalidas Mehta, their classmates from the Gurukul school in Baroda. In the midst of tragedy, friendship became family. Did they know then that my mother would eventually find a man called Jayant Madhvani and marry him some 8 years or 9 years later and have all of us? No, not at all. And did she know that this friendship of the Nanji Kalidas Mehta would lead to the marriage of one of her friends to Mahendrabhai Mehta and the Dhirubhai Mehta's family, and they all lived in Uganda together. That bond, formed 84 years ago, continues today. Their families have supported my younger brother Amit and me in Uganda, proving that even in the darkest moments, humanity can forge relationships that transcend generations and geography. What an incredible tryst with destiny. And not only that, we also compete and work together in the sugar industries in Uganda. So we work together to improve the lives of Ugandans, and we are committed to that industrial development. And that's an honor for me to be here as a High Commissioner of Uganda to the United Kingdom. So today, we must offer sincere gratitude to Emil, Solanki, and his dedicated team. And I'd like to really applaud them for everything that they've done, please. I don't think there's a day I wake up without 20 emails from him or WhatsApps. And I eventually had to tell him, can you please stop? I'm going to try. But of course, with great respect. We congratulate you. Your vision, your perseverance, and determination to find the survivors of the SS TILAWA and record their testimonies have revived a chapter of history nearly lost time. Because of you, their courage now stands recognized, preserved, and honored. To the officials of Leicester, thank you for acknowledging this history, for hosting this commemoration, and for giving space and dignity to a story that deserves national remembrance. Distinguished friends, the story of the SS TILAWA is one of loss, but also of immense strength. It is a story of war, but also of humanity. It is a story of tragedy, but also of friendship, survival, and destiny. We remember the passengers who perished. We honor the British sailors who bravely attempted rescue, who themselves paid the ultimate price. Their sacrifice must never be forgotten. And so I thought we should make a humble appeal today, and we respectfully call upon His Majesty the King to consider a posthumous honor or national recognition of the passengers, of each of the passengers of the SS TILAWA who lost their lives to wartime violence, and for the British sailors who risked and in some cases gave their lives in the rescue attempts. Such recognition would bring dignity, healing, justice to the families gathered here and those who have departed. Maybe a proposed memorial plaque of the SS TILAWA to be unveiled in Leicester in honored memory of the passengers and crew of the SS TILAWA, torpedoed and sunk in the Indian Ocean, 23rd of November, 1942, 900 nautical miles north of Seychelles. We remember the families, students, merchant sailors, and children journeying from Mumbai to Mombasa. We honor the courage of the survivors and the heroic efforts of the British sailors who rescued them and in some cases sacrificed their own lives. This memorial could stand as a testament to their bravery and their resilience and enduring bonds of humanity formed in the face of tragedy. May their souls rest in eternal peace. May their stories live forever. And on behalf of Uganda, as a representative of the International Maritime Organization in London, I think it might be an opportunity with the Lady Mayor and with the Lord Lieutenant of His Majesty the King, for us to do something with the International Maritime Organization in London. And ironically, right now, as I speak, we have the election process ongoing for the various countries, the seafarers, we remember them, the sailors, the captains, and all the passengers that have to be taken care of during war and in peace, and as you know, what's going on in history. So we'd be very pleased, and I'm sure my colleagues in Kenya, who are also members, and Tanzania, at time Tanganyika, would possibly join, and of course South Africa. And maybe through the foundation, you could consider a joint venture discussions to have with the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization. It's not in my speech, it's something I thought of as we were sitting here. So with those few words, I do hope we can do something also maybe in Mombasa or in East Africa, but meanwhile, Uganda's a wonderful country for you all to visit. I look forward to welcoming you all. Come back. It's safe, it's peaceful, the weather is fabulous, it's not freezing like we're freezing here. Don't have to wear coats and jackets and everything. Great food, great fruits, and really we look forward to all the friends that are now in Leicester, from Jinja. We have so many people here from there. We also have the Deputy Lord Lieutenant here from Bradford. He's from Jinja, and his wife, Dr. Joshi, our Honorary Consul, Mr. Jaffa Kapasi, has also kindly come today. Of course, from Leicester and Bradford, and then, of course, all of you, it's lovely to be here with you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much indeed, Your Excellency, Mrs. Madhwani, and I think we're all with you on that concept of having a plaque to commemorate what was an incredible tragedy. And just listening to your story and the stories of all the people who've given their accounts, it just shows how one single tragedy can bring so many people from so many different spheres of life together and unite us all. And you know, we're very grateful for you being here today, but also sharing your very personal story with regards to SS TILAWA. Next, it's my privilege to welcome the Right Honourable Mr. Keith Vaz. Keith is a former, of course, MP for Leicester East from 1987 to 2019, the longest-serving British Asian MP. During his career, he served as Minister for Europe and as the chairman of the Home Affairs Select Committee as well. And through his work with the Integration Foundation, Leica Radio, and Silver Star Diabetes, he's consistently shown a commitment to service and to uplifting communities. Today, he joins us not only as a distinguished figure in public life, but as a champion of TILAWA 1942 with his work through his radio show, Talking Points on Leica Radio. His many interviews with Emil have not only been heard all over the country, but many families have come forward as a result of this. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for former Leicester East MP, Mr. Keith Vaz. A slip of the tongue, which I'm sure you'll forgive, Keith.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I am going to be very, very brief because I am, as you are, totally overwhelmed with the experience of being here today. Kamlesh, first of all, congratulations on becoming the Deputy Managing Director of the BBC, the first Asian to hold that position. Well done. Knowing what's happening to the BBC at the moment, he'll probably be the chairman by tomorrow. What an evening. What an afternoon and evening. Thank you to the organisers for choosing Leicester for this event. In this incredible auditorium, in this building, we have seen some incredible people. Abhishek Bachchan, Shilpa Shetty, the day after she came out of the Big Brother house, 2 prime ministers and the daughter of Nelson Mandela. But I think this particular event sums up what the Peepul Centre exists to do, to bring communities together to remind us of our incredible history, built by the women, the Behenos of Leicester, led by the amazing Rita Patel. This is the place where we should have had the commemoration today. And I want to join with the High Commissioner in paying tribute to this remarkable man, Emil Solanki, for the incredible work that he has done to make sure that this campaign is front and center of our thoughts at this time. The High Commissioner had 20 emails from him. I've spent more time with Emil Solanki than I have with my own wife over the last 3 weeks. And Emil, you've made this into a family occasion. Your dad, Cash, the great Luca sitting over there. How can this boy sit through 3 hours of speeches is incredible. Definitely you're going to end up in Parliament one day. I'm absolutely sure of it. But what Emil has done is he has reminded us of this event, this terrible event, which has not just captured our imagination, but also has reminded us of a number of things. First of all, that war is evil, that one shot fired from a Japanese boat could kill so many people and change so many lives. And this war is continuing as we sit here in the comfort of the Peepul Centre, in places like Gaza and Somalia and other places all over the world. So we must never forget, though we commemorate and we honor and we do all the things we should do to recognize the incredible work of the survivors, we must remember that this war continues, that some captain in some part of the world is pressing a button that's going to kill innocent people. So the first thing we need to remember is that war is evil. The second is the importance of family. We've heard stories about fathers and mothers and grandparents, of cousins, of children and grandchildren, incredible stories about the importance that we hold dear of the Asian family, the values that we have. I have to make an appointment to see my 30-year-old son. It's quite different to when he was Luca's age, when they were with us all this time. And I think this reminds us that we should keep close to families and communities, because this matters greatly to what we can achieve as people. The second is heritage. I've recently come back from Mumbai, where I went to the church where my mother and father got married, and I was trying to get my mother's birth certificate and marriage certificate. This story reminds us how that heritage is so important to us, how we wouldn't have someone like Nimisha Modvani as one of the best high commissioners and ambassadors there is in the country. If her dear mother had not survived, she would not be sitting here today with us. The next issue, the next important point, I think, is legacy. Emil, of course, doesn't feel that this is enough. He wants us to do much more. He says that he's written to Leicester City Council to get a very disappointing reply. Well, Emil, you're very lucky. At least you got a reply from Leicester City Council. Of course, we are going to do our best to support what you're doing. And sitting in the front row is someone who also honors heritage, Nisha Poppet, who's put together the South Asian Heritage Bank, the digital bank of our history. I should get her onto this job of chasing up the head of services at Leicester City Council. Now, the High Commissioner has invited the Lord Mayor to go and visit Uganda. I think, judging by the weather, she'll probably want to stay in Uganda for the rest of her term. It's probably a little warmer, Teresa, than Thurmby Lodge. But, you know, as we come to an end of this great festival of commemoration, we must remember one final point, and that is gratitude. We don't thank people enough for what they do. We forget the good things. You remember sometimes the one thing that never happened, but you never remember, as you should do, how important it is to say thank you. Thank you to those who sent the message out that got the British ships to save so many people. Thank you for those like Nimisha's friends who rescued her on the shores of Mumbai. Thank you to all those involved in this incredible campaign, and especially to you, Emil. I know from my many years in public life before I retired how difficult it is to run a campaign, to make people do things, to remind people, to spend a lot of your own money and time. I know he's dressed as if he was the Maharaja of the Belgrave Road, but actually he's from Toronto in Canada, and he's flown to Mumbai and to Johannesburg and all over the world on his own expense. He's worked hard to make us remember and bring us all here today. The Lord Lieutenant, the High Commissioner, the Lord Mayor, only Donald Trump is missing from this gathering. Everyone else is here. But we, in our own way, promise you, Emil, for all the work that you've put in, we will do our best to honor everyone who has died, but also honor the survivors, so they did not survive this in vain. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed, Keith, and for that wonderful segue to the Lord Mayor, Councillor Teresa Aldred. Councillor Aldred was born and raised, as Keith said, in Thurmby Lodge, Leicester, where she raised her family and still lives. We're neighbours, Lord Mayor. I represent the magnificent village of Scraptoft. You began your work in a care home for the elderly whilst attending Charles Frere's College of Nursing and Midwifery, and she also trained as a teaching assistant with a placement at one of her old primary schools. She's taken an active role in the local community, holding events at the Thurn Court Community Centre and assisting with elderly groups as well. And in 2015, Councillor Aldred stood in the local elections on behalf of the Labour Party and won her seat in Thurn Court Ward, where she continues to serve as one of the local councillors there. Please welcome our Lord Mayor, Councillor Teresa Aldred.
Don't know what to say. It's been very emotional, actually. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, survivors and families and loved ones. Today we gather to remember a tragedy that for too long has remained hidden in the shadows of history. The forgotten story of SS TILAWA. On November the 20th, 1943, the SS TILAWA, a British ocean liner carrying passengers, crew and cargo, set sail from India bound for South Africa, but just 3 days later, on November the 23rd, it was struck by 2 torpedoes fired from a Japanese submarine. In that moment, 280 lives were tragically lost, and hundreds of passengers and crew found themselves fighting for survival in the vast Indian Ocean, surrounded by all the dangers, clinging to hope and battling for 2 long days to stay alive. Although this story is not widely known, it is deeply connected to the city of Leicester. Amongst the survivors were countless families, and at least 3 of them called Leicester their home. One of few remaining survivors, now 96 years old, lost his parents and 3 younger siblings in this terrible tragedy. It is important we come together to remember their suffering, their loss, and to honour all who were affected. This special event marks the first of its kind in Leicester, the second in Britain, and only the 4th in the world. It gives us the opportunity to pay tribute to the lives lost and the heroes who survived, ensuring their story never be forgotten. We must also take a moment to recognise the vital role played by the Indian people during the Second World War and the immense contribution they made to the British Empire and the Commonwealth. Many people from India now call Leicester home, and we celebrate a rich diversity and a vibrant culture they bring to our city. We remain deeply grateful for their service, their sacrifice, and their courage, for standing with us as allies to defend what we hold dear. Today serves a shining example of those historical ties continue to shape Leicester, a city that proudly celebrates its shared history, its heritage, and its lasting connections between our community. I hope that Leicester listens, and I hope that this will never be forgotten, and I hope that we get something in place for the survivors, for everybody what lost their lives, and I'll wholeheartedly help do that if I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indrid, for your vote of support, but also for that wonderful message as well, Lord Mayor. So before I bring Emil back to the front to bring a formal end to our proceedings this evening, we're very excited to hear a short video message sent yesterday from Sir Paul Marshall. Tell me a little bit about Sir Paul. He's Chief Investment Officer and Chairman of Marshall Wace LLP, the leading investment manager. He's the founding trustee of ARC, which is a children's charity, and was chairman of ARC Schools from 2004 to 2024. Now, Sir Paul served as a lead non-executive director at the UK Department for Education from 2013 to 2016. And in 2015, he founded the Marshall Institute for Philanthropy and Social Entrepreneurship at the London School of Economics. Paul Marshall was knighted in Her Majesty's birthday honours in 2016 for services to education and philanthropy. He holds an MBA from INSEAD Business School and also BA honours from St John's College, Oxford University. But he's played a key instrumental role in some of the salvage work that we saw earlier for SS TILAWA. Let's have a listen to his message.
Good afternoon, one and all. I'm so sorry I can't be with you today. I'm afraid last night I managed to completely do in my back, which means that any journey to and from Leicester would be very damaging to my health. So I hope you be able to accept this video as a way of me participating in today's event. I so much wanted to be with you all today to celebrate the huge achievement of Emil in building such an important monument to the SS TILAWA and to its victims. Emil is a great man, and I have rarely come across someone with so much energy and optimism and enthusiasm. The loss of the TILAWA was a tragic event for all the people involved, for their families and for their descendants. I'm so glad it is being remembered and honoured today, and I hope that this honouring will provide new healing. Speaking personally, I particularly wanted to be with you in Leicester today to honour the Indian community and the part you have played in our country's history. It is often forgotten that at its peak in 1945, 3 years after the TILAWA went down, the Indian Army was the largest volunteer combatant army in history anywhere, with 2.5 million people voluntarily enlisted. And India lost 87,000 combatants in World War II. Emil asked me to attend today's event to represent the story of the search and discovery of the wreck. I should say up front that I was not a central figure in this, but a minority investor in the company, Argentum, that discovered the wreck. About 20 years ago, new technology emerged for underwater sonar, which enabled detection over much longer distances than ever before. I've been an investor in quite a few shipwreck discovery ventures. Only a minority have been successful, and as a general rule, almost all the searches for older wooden ships have failed, whilst we have been more successful for those with metal hulls. We were first presented with the TILAWA story in 2012. We first searched in 2013 with a Swedish team, but were unsuccessful. However, the information gathered was invaluable and paved the way for the successful discovery by Argentum in 2014. The breakthrough was the culmination of meticulous research, advanced technology, hard work, and a lot of skilled experts. For anyone who thinks it sounds like a very profitable business, I can assure you it is most certainly not. The TILAWA was one of our most important discoveries, and I am so pleased that it is being honoured in this way today. And I would especially like to thank and honour Emil. There can be no happy ending for those who are lost at sea, but there can be healing for their families and descendants. And I hope today contributes to that healing. I wish you all the very, very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed, Sir Paul, for that wonderful message. And so we now come to, I guess, the most important moment of this commemoration as we bring our proceedings to a close. So welcome back on stage Emil Solanki and his father, Kash Kumar, as well, to introduce a moment of silence.
So I think, firstly, it is appropriate to say a few words of thanks to His Majesty's Lord Lieutenant and Lord Mayor and Your Excellency, Mrs. Madwani, Mr. Vaz, and distinguished guests. A special mention to Kamlesh Paroit, Rifi Khan, Aman Dillon, Pedro, David, Dan Flanders, Crosscut Media. They have done a fantastic job today. What do you think of all of these cameras around you, live streaming? This monitor. Dan Flanders is such a lovely individual. If you ever need any production work, call Crosscut Media. Good professional people. We think about our press and media partners, Punjab 2000, Subris Radio, Michael Brady, Seabank Digital, Kristen and your husband Richard, and Doug and James at Magellan, Jay's Fingerprint, all of the over 20 printed exhibit displays. You have done such a phenomenal job. We're very, very grateful for what you have done for us. And again, Sir Paul, Mr. Hyatt, Argentum Exploration and your team, what you started back in 2012 has led to what we are commemorating today in, I would say, quite historic fashion. The SS TILAWA Foundation, we have not forgotten you. Uncle Haroon, I know you're watching right now, and Ashraf, Imran, and the team there, just incredible. You found that passenger list. You showed us those two pictures of those survivors in the lifeboat and on H.M.S Birmingham. You are friends of TILAWA 1942. We have fond memories of being with you at the commemoration in Durban, South Africa, and we are so pleased that you sent the professor and Tahir and his dear wife today. So thank you so, so much. And we appreciate the generosity of all of you who have either given some funds or your free time or a reduction in your fees for the various services so that this historic event could take place. Now, before we get into this sacred moment of silence, my father would like to say a few words, so let's see what he has to say.
He warned me not to say too much because all the thanks has been done. So thank you for everybody coming, everyone coming, our dignitaries, VIP guests, and people from around the world. So thank you very much. got to say big hats off to our sponsors and our supporters and well-wishers, and everybody really, my family as well. But I do want to say one thing, and I'll say this publicly today, Emil. You can see the love that the public have shown. Can I just say also thank Kamlesh Purohit from the BBC for doing a marvelous job. Please give a hand out to Kamlesh. Thank you, a dear friend for many, many years. Now, many moons ago, my father, he had a great bonding with Emil when Emil was in his mid-20s, going back about 18 years, and you probably heard from what Emil said earlier on. Emil and my father, Ranjitbhai Solanki, spoke very closely, had a very tight bond about finding the ship, finding more research on his father, Nichabai Chibabai Solanki. And I think, as a father, I'm so proud today that we've done the full circle, come back to Leicester, and he has achieved what was a really tough journey for him emotionally, whatever way, but he has achieved and brought this story to life, and remembering the 280 people that sadly lost their lives. But you've done proud to the Solanki family.
I'd like to say thank you for coming, and also I'd like to say that the SS TILAWA was a very precious ship, and my great-great-grandfather was on that ship. So just to say thank you all for coming.
I promise you that was spontaneous. Our dear Mr. Mervyn Maciel is going to be 97 years of age, and he couldn't be here today. His entire family was wiped out. He was an orphan at 13. And at the age of 14, he wrote a poem. No parents, no siblings. Here is the poem of a 14-year-old. My mother was snatched at too early an age. My father soon followed that same old stage, and left us 3 brothers quite helpless alone to bear the yoke that they had borne. My mother's death took place at home, where all of us did weep and mourn, but my father's was at a death at sea. It tore our hearts and orphaned 3. My dad with stepmom and children 3 was sailing to Africa full of glee. He smilingly said, I'll come back soon, but we knew not death would call so soon. So sudden God's summons, so quick the deep sea did swallow them all, oh destiny. No time to say farewell, no time to say wait. Death's cold gatekeeper had opened the gate. And now he's gone, we can murmur not, but trust in God, for that's our lot. And trusting in him who reigns on high, we'll patiently wait till the end draws nigh. Then Daddy and Mummy soon shall we meet, when death has silenced our last heartbeat. Together then we'll live forever and ever, in heaven so beautiful we shall part no never. The time has come for us to officially commemorate the 83rd anniversary of the SS TILAWA, and something very special has been provided today thanks to Magellan and to Michael Brady and Seagate Digital, Seabank Digital. This plaque, in memory of those aboard the SS TILAWA, lost to the sea but not forgotten, this plaque honors the 280 lives tragically lost and the survivors who endured. May peace be with them, and may their story inspire remembrance and reflection. This plaque was lowered down permanently on the wreck. We're going to play a video of that moment, and then you will be encouraged to stand for a moment of silence. But enjoy the video first.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the official memorialisation of the 280 lives lost with the sinking of SS TILAWA. Magellan Limited, in collaboration with SS TILAWA 1942, now proudly present an historic moment, the lowering of a commemorative plaque on the wreck of the ship.
Oh boy, look at that. Oh man. The tragedy of this story was a deep, dark secret in our family that nobody was allowed to talk about. Here is tangible evidence. It's just a closer connection. It actually seems quite peaceful.
Please stand, as in 10 seconds' time, we will hold a minute's silence in remembrance. This special moment now marks this historic commemorative event. Thank you so much for your attendance and for keeping these important memories alive. Please now take your seats for our host's concluding remarks.
Thank you so much indeed, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention, for your patience in what's been a long program. But I'm sure you'll agree that today's commemoration has been a magnificent remembrance of a truly heartbreaking tragedy. As you can imagine, a production of this scale is a very expensive operation to put together. And we'd love for you to support us. Donations can be made in various different ways, or even by cash in the donation box at the front welcome desk. You can scan a QR code for credit card donations. If you look at the back of your program, you'll see information on the various different ways that you can contribute. Every little bit will help support, the fantastic work that Emil and all the team have put together, and we would really appreciate your heartfelt generosity. If you have any stories or wish to join the TILAWA 1942 family WhatsApp group, then please reach out to the TILAWA 1942 team by email. The email address is info@tilawa1942.com. That's info@tilawa1942.com, and they'll be really pleased to assist you. Of course, you can always grab one of the volunteers, and they'll be able to give you the information that you need. And Emil has got an amazing ambition, which I'm 100% fully supportive of, is to make a future documentary on SS TILAWA. You've seen the remarkable journey of not only the sinking of the ship, but all the associated stories and how it's touched lives of so many people. And still that journey continues with the salvage operation and all the memories that are now flowing as a result of some of the work people like Emil and the foundation in South Africa are doing. And so there's lots of components, and I'd love for Emil's dream to come true and a documentary is put together. If you can support in any way, either through inspiration or financial or through any contacts that you may have, then please reach out to Emil. And if you haven't already signed the guest book, please make sure that you sign that before you go today. And also, if you haven't had a chance to enjoy the exhibit outside, please go and have a look at the amazing photos, some of which you've already seen. There are lots of people here who have connections with TILAWA, and if your family photos are missing, please forgive us. It's only because the material for today's commemoration was printed a long time ago, and I know since then many of you come forward with photographs. And so hopefully for the next one, we'll be able to include some of your memories and your material as well. So that's it. History has been made. I'm Kamlesh Purohit signing off on behalf of TILAWA 1942 from Leicester, UK, on the 83rd anniversary of the SS TILAWA Forgotten Tragedy. Thank you for your loving support and attendance, whether you're here in person or watching online as well. Have a safe trip home and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and thank you.